world gone insane. An upside-down civilization cannot be real. A world of madness and terror.
It's the Dana Gould Hour.
Today's show is brought to you by Casper. Get $50 towards any mattress purchase by visiting casper.com/Dana and using the promo code Dana. This episode of the Dana Gould Hour is also brought to you by Blue Apron. Check out this week's menu and get your first 3 meals free with free shipping by going to blueapron.com/DGH for Dana Gould Hour. You will love how good it feels and tastes to create incredible home-cooked meals from blueapron.com/DGH. And if you're really lazy, eat them in bed on your Casper mattress. Spring has sprung here at the Dana Gould Hour podcast with a brimming bushel of bright and bouncy banter. Ken Reid is here today of the superlative podcast TV Guidance Counselor, and our old buddy, the bitter Buddha himself, Eddie Pepitone, is here. As for me, things are heating up far beyond their normal frenzied pace. On May 2nd, 2017, I will be at the Lyric Hyperion Theater in Silver Lake, California. Now, this is different from most LA shows in that I'm doing a full show. Me for an hour. Ugh. But if you haven't seen it yet, come on down and see it. And on May 3rd, the following night, I will be performing the same show in Seattle, Washington, at the Columbia City Theater for 2 shows. And that, God willing, will be recorded for my new album coming out later this year on Kill Rock Stars. I'm thinking of calling it Mighty Mouth or Motor Mouth or something like that. Whatever. You'll hear about it here, no doubt. And then I'm heading back to Atlanta to start production on Season 2 of IFC's Stand Against Evil, which will be premiering in October. But in the meantime, on to our filthy business.
Tune in to gas. It's the Dana Gould Hour podcast.
The Dana Gould Hour. Free and worth it.
It's showtime.
My guest tonight on a balmy Southern California spring evening, high atop the Mulholland view shelf, Boston's own, the East Coast distributor of my long-buried id.
I'm putting that on the sign out in front of my door for my business.
The host of one of my favorite podcasts, TV Guidance Counselor. You can get his comedy CD, The Vanity Project Volume 1. Please welcome Ken Reid.
This is the sound of my voice.
How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm in California.
Yeah, you're in California. I have long discussed how we've only known each other a couple years.
Yep.
How creepily similar we are.
Yes. I'm so sorry.
So today, as I am wont to do, this is my past 24 hours. So last night, I was at the famously haunted Roosevelt Hotel in Southern California at the Turner Classic Movie Festival.
As you do.
In full Dr. Zaius makeup.
This was the plan, too. This wasn't like a perfect serendipity of
No.
my car broke down. I happened to be.
No, it was all planned.
Yeah.
The great Andy Schoenberg from K&B Effects did my makeup, and I introduced Planet of the Apes alongside Lou Wagner, who plays Lucius in Planet of the Apes.
Right.
So I'm in ape makeup with a guy that's in the original movie. If you had told the 12-year-old me that would have one day happened, my head would explode.
Yeah.
And then I get out of that. I go home, go to bed, wake up. There's a little horror convention here in Southern California, Monster Palooza. I walk in. The first person I
Yeah.
see.
And I was just doing I was like the first time I got up that day.
First person I see, Ken Reid. Then I say, we had planned this. It's like, I'll see you at my house later tonight.
Yep.
Right? You come over to my house. We both bought the same thing.
Yep, absolutely. Would not planned at all. Slightly different. We both bought Ultraman figures, but in different
I was
positions.
going to say Martine Beswick fleshlights.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
We both bought Ultraman figures. Different poses.
We actually, the Martine Beswick one, we went halvesies on. So we bought the same one. I think it's your week.
Let's. I'm going to get to. I want to get to fleshlights in a minute.
Yeah.
Ultraman, for those of you who don't, I've talked about him on the show before. It was a kid show made in Japan in the late 60s, syndicated to America. It was basically Godzilla as a half-hour TV show.
Yeah.
It was Godzilla in Seinfeld.
With a superhero.
Yeah. It was truly just like heroin for a kid. It was just like visual heroin for a child.
It was the thing, like, when you'd watch Outer Limits every week, because not all of them are great, but you knew you'd get a monster, which you didn't get in Twilight Zone. Ultraman was that, but you were like, every week I'm getting a monster, I know it's going to be cool, and it's going to get its ass
going to be
kicked.
a fight. Yeah. Twilight Zone was not a great episode for a kid all the time.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, maybe communism isn't a good idea.
Sometimes you reap what you sow. I don't even understand what that means.
Who'd have thought? Why is Columbo Castro?
Or the really boring ones like, I guess he's an angel, so Jesus then? Like the few where you're like, was this just church all of a sudden?
And then the lazy ones, Rod Serling was at the end of the end of his string on a particular season. It's, hey, what if it's a hot planet and she wakes up and it's a cold planet?
Yeah. It's the irony. Yes.
What if she thinks she's eating ice cream and then the smashed potatoes?
The whole time she was the ice cream. She was being eaten by someone else. Godzilla actually showed up. Actual Godzilla showed up in Ultraman. They reused Godzilla costumes a couple times.
Oh, yeah, they do that all the time.
Spray painted him gold and put a collar on him.
Yeah.
There's one he has an Elizabethan collar.
And it's one of those things you have to see, and you have to be of a certain generation to appreciate it. The same thing would happen on Lost in Space. The same thing would happen in Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. The repurposing of costumes.
Yeah.
There's the original gorilla makeup from Planet of the Apes is in a Lost in Space, painted white with some horns.
Yeah, perfect. You like to think he's like a weird albino inbred ape.
Stick it in there. Giant carrot, send him in there.
Yeah.
And Ultraman, they would just take monsters that were in giant monster movies, turn them into lamps, send them in.
Yeah. One of my favorite repurposing, and this is much later, but in the Halloween episode of Knight Rider called Halloween Nights with a K.
Not to be confused with Hollywood Nights.
That's right.
With Robert Wool as New Bomb
Turk, which did at least spawn the great band, the New Bomb Turks. From Chicago. In Robert Wool's ass. There's so much mooning in that movie. I mean, I didn't grow up in the 50s, but was mooning that popular?
Well, that was when all of Hollywood bet on wool.
Yeah.
Everything on wool.
A lot of people don't know Batman was built as a Robert Wool vehicle.
The only line they had in the script was, "This guy is king of the wicker people."
Yes.
That's the only line they had in that script.
Yep.
I'm shitting on Robert Wool, who's he's a very nice guy.
I only remember his Bruce Springsteen bit that he used to do where it just go into Tramps Like Us for forever.
But he's a good head.
He's a good guy. But they repurpose the 3 Dawn Post Halloween masks from Halloween 3, Season of the Witch.
Right, sure.
And so there's a Halloween party and like half the room has those 3 masks on. It's really weird.
Halloween 3 was the craziest movie because Halloween is great. It's a classic.
Yep.
Halloween 2 was a serviceable sequel. I saw it the night before my PSATs.
Excellent. Did you do well?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
58640.
Oh, nice.
And then Halloween 3, it's like they jettison Mike Myers and it's about kids wearing masks.
Yeah.
And it was literally like Halloween 3 was just an episode of Night Gallery.
Yeah,
It's
and-
actually The Twilight Zone. It's masks.
Yeah.
It's the directed by the great Ida Lupino.
With an
one of the
excellent-
earliest women directors in Hollywood.
with an excellent anti-Irish bent. That movie's it's really like the Irish are going to kill our children, everybody. Like that script was sitting in some guy's desk drawer since 1940. Like these potato-eating bastards are going to come over.
The original title was Shanty Mix.
Yeah. No Irish. No, I really mean it. Because it really is. It's the plot is they use Stonehenge and some Irish guy is just going to kill America's children as a joke.
Oh my, yeah. Well, that's also there's a Finnegan in Star Trek. Oh, Jimmy boy!
Yeah.
Like all Irish people are just like,
Some 70-year-old
crazy, violence-soaked Lucky Charms elf.
That's not that inaccurate.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Halfway through that sentence, I was like, wait, this is the truth.
That's the best way to describe it. Yeah, I just picture like some 70-year-old.
Jimmy, me boy.
Hey, can I take a bribe and then beat you while I'm drunk? I'm the police chief.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That was the typical Boston crime.
Yeah.
I forget what this is from, but it was. Can you describe the black man that attacked you?
He
It
was
a
white.
white man. A black man disguised as a white man.
Yes.
Oh, he's crafty.
They're doing that a lot these days. We'll just round up a few in case they had Boston police had a pre-crime unit.
It was like Minority
way
Report.
before Minority Report, but it was still called Minority Report. They were like, well, we'll round them up just in
But
case.
it's so funny when you're not from Boston. When people think of Boston, they go, "Oh, the liberal Northeast." Have you been to Boston?
Well, I always sum it up as I always describe it as artisanal xenophobia.
Yeah, oh,
because
well
it's
done,
like
yeah.
they're not. It's not just that you're another race; it's that you're not them. Is more
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
But there's a weird liberal hatefulness that I best sum up and be like, leave him alone. Who cares if he's a faggot?
Yeah,
Like it's like, wait a minute, which side are you on here?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's not right.
Yeah, who cares? He's a queer.
Yeah.
Leave him alone.
Who cares? He's a stupid black lazy guy, but it's none of your business. And you're like, wait, whoa, yeah.
When'd you get so liberal?
Yeah. Back off, man. Yeah, it's this very strange place.
But of course, it's not Boston. It's not Boston.
It's
anymore.
not Boston these days.
Not Boston anymore, Ken.
You barely hear people say bottles or Fellines or blueberry tops.
Or Bubbler.
Bubbler.
Where's
never
the
hear it.
Bubbler?
Nobody laughs anymore.
Why? I was just like, where's my aunt? I still say aunt.
My aunt's at Fellines.
Fellini's basement.
Fellines' basement.
We came out to see The Damned.
Yeah.
Tell me about your affection of the Damned.
So the Damned I was a punk rock kid before I knew what punk rock was,
Right.
apparently. But I was 5 years old and I had horrible insomnia and I slept maybe
5-year-old.
Yeah, I slept maybe 2 hours a night my whole life till I was like in my early 20s. And
How was that physically? I don't believe me.
Yeah.
And so I had a jag of insomnia that put me in the hospital.
Yeah.
So I just the empathy that I'm feeling for you
I
right
felt
now is
sick all the
chilling.
time. I felt like garbage all the time, but
Right.
it was all I knew. So until I started sleeping, I was
Right.
like, oh, this is how human beings are supposed to feel? So that part was terrible.
Was a physiological disorder?
Yeah. It was related to panic attacks, general anxiety disorder, depression.
Dopamine, serotonin uptake.
It just didn't, I couldn't sleep. And,
I feel like,
Yeah.
Jesus,
I know, I'm sure it's getting worse. And it wasn't even,
I'm so sorry we're so sick.
I know.
I'm so sorry.
I
we're so
know what
sick.
you've been through. And it wasn't even, when I was younger, it wasn't even like I can't shut my brain off stuff. It was just like, you're just not sleeping. Like it just wouldn't.
I had it in New York. I've had a crazy, the past 2 weeks for me were so crazy. My kids were on their spring break. And so I took my oldest daughters to
Daytona Beach for a wet t-shirt contest.
I took them just the opposite. I went to Mammoth, and we went skiing under many layers. And then I drove them home from Mammoth, dropped them off at their mom's house, went to the airport, flew to Tempe, did the weekend in Tempe, came back for a day, hosted a benefit, flew to New York, did the upfronts for IFC, came back, had to do doctors. And it was just like my sleep hygiene has to be really rigorous.
You strike me as a guy who needs a schedule.
I do need a schedule or I go bananas. And just literally the last night in New York, like I got back after the whole baloney and I got in bed and was like, okay, great, go to sleep. If I go to bed now, 6 hours, I'll be fine.
Yeah.
5 hours, if I sleep right now.
Yep.
And motherfucker, I think I started to drift off at 6.
Yep. Get up at 6:30.
6:45.
Yeah.
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 And then you're just lunch meat.
Yeah, you feel like you've been hit by a truck, and like you feel like what
I look at, and this is what I do, and it. Had I not the worst feeling in the world, at least I drifted off.
Yeah.
Because here's my creepy weakness. Here's the depth of my crazy.
Okay.
The deep, dark, truthful, hard candy center of my crazy. On those nights where you just can't sleep, and you get out of bed and you say, "Fuck it,
I'm going to be productive."
Right, and you just like, I'm not going to sleep tonight. I go to. My brain does not know how to sleep anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm never going to sleep again. And you walk around all day looking at everyone thinking they've slept, they're a part of the world.
Yep.
I have not, and
I'm out
not.
of phase now.
Out of phase.
Yeah.
You're Candace Hillegas in Carnival of Souls running around the department store.
Sometimes they see me, sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
The weirdest is there have been times when I, not recently, thank God. Now, maybe get it once a month now. But where I didn't sleep for 2 or 3 days. And your brain goes 11, baby. Your brain goes, hey asshole, if you're not gonna dream, I'm just gonna do it now.
Yeah.
So you start hallucinating and stuff.
Yes, and part of that is, and I know because I went 11 days where I don't recall sleeping, but the doctors told me that I must have slept.
Because you would have been dead.
Yeah, and I met a friend of a friend, a woman who named Karen Scott, to whom I owe my life, who basically took me in, like didn't really know me, and just saw that I was just in big trouble.
Yeah.
This is in July of 1994.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually got me to the hospital. I think my dishwasher's fucking my fridge.
Yeah. That's how ice is made.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on over there.
Might not be picking it up.
Fuck it. I'm not even reading. But in it, when I went to the doctor, I was describing that what it is your eyes send your brain signals,
mm-hmm.
and your brain assembles those signals into images, and it's just getting sloppy.
Yeah,
because it's deprived of
it needs
serotonin and everything, and it's just trying to put images together when it can't. And in 1994, and that was when I was at the point of like, well, I can kill myself today.
Yeah,
if it's just unbearable today. And I lived in California and 5th in Santa Monica, and I'll just walk down there. There's the ocean.
Oh yeah,
I'll just pull A Creature Walks Among Us, but
it's very matter of fact. Like
but it keeps you from killing yourself.
Yeah, because you have that panic button.
Yeah,
like
that's exactly
you can pull
right.
a ripcord if you have to.
Yes, yeah.
And that's totally. I mean, I only slept about 2 hours a night, but I suffered from suicidal depression for decades and decades. And I'm actually, I think everyone in my family had at least attempted suicide once at some point.
Uh-huh.
But it was, when you describe it to someone who doesn't have that, or has never had it. Because they're quitters. And they're usually just lazy.
I didn't know this until I was older in life. I was named after a friend of my dad's who killed himself.
Yeah.
Like, hey, thanks.
But there's so many, like, when you get older, you find out there's a lot more
Barnabas?
Yes, yeah. You named me Unabomber Gould. I know he didn't kill himself, but I was trying to think of of someone who bombed it.
Yeah.
But you always have
Kurt
that.
Cobain Gould.
Really?
What a terrible name.
You had that foresight to know that he was. But it's not scary. Like you don't feel like you're. It's almost calming.
It's calming. No, I was just going to say it's the only thing that keeps you sane because you have a ripcord. It's like you said. It's like I can. So like when people talk about, people who kill themselves, and being a comedian, we know double digits, unfortunately, of people who kill themselves. What a fucking asshole.
Yeah. So selfish.
Yeah, it's like, stop applying rational thought to an irrational mindset.
It's like saying someone who died of diabetes was a fucking asshole.
Yeah.
Had kids. I'm like, it's a chemical imbalance that is, needs management.
And specifically, I bring this up with Robin Williams, who suffered from Lowe's body dementia.
Right.
Who's they found out in the autopsy, his brain was soaked with this disease, and it had literally changed the physiological structure of his brain.
Yeah.
So I always stress to people, Robin did not kill himself because he was depressed. Robin killed himself because he had a disease and he was no longer Robin.
Yeah.
Yeah,
your brain rewires.
Yeah. But to what we were talking about, like, it's happened to me a couple times in my life. Once in 1994 and then once in 2012. So it's a big thing. So when I get it, it's battle stations.
Yeah, it really is like someone about to go into like a diabetic shock or something.
Yeah,
like you see the signs start happening, and you're like, you got to turn this around physically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
or you go down a path.
And
I got always.
Yeah. Now, did you take anything for it? Did medication?
As a kid, I never did. Medication helped definitely. I was very not. I guess I would say I was anti-medication for my whole life.
Were you or your family?
Me. My family was totally absent for all of this stuff when I was a kid. I was very well behaved. I never got in trouble. So they kind of. I always joke that I'm the white sheep of my family. But again. Yeah. But they're all like car thieves.
I'm the same.
Oh God! So they were like, Ken's fine. He's in his room reading.
We are and I have another very good friend who lives in Southern California with whom I share this. We're the Maryland Munsters.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And like my sister would be 5 and we'd have family over and they'd give her beers and she'd be drinking and they'd be telling her to swear and she'd be swearing and they'd laugh and and I'd be in my room reading comic books alone and they'd be like, what a weird quiet kid.
Yeah. But he's not bothering anybody.
He's not bothering anybody, so it's fine. Yeah.
But
I mean, the first time I tried to kill myself, I think I was 5 and it was just they just didn't get it.
You drove a big wheel into the opposing lane of big wheels?
I did. And I had 100 sparklers in a crown around my head.
Kill yourself at 5.
Well, I tried.
By the way, we're playing right into my favorite suicide joke of mine, which is the misspelled note.
Excellent.
People standing over your body. Dana committed suicide.
Well, thank God for spell check. That's what I'm saying. And Facebook walls.
How do you try to kill yourself when you're 5?
I took a knife.
Jesus,
I got a scar from it and tried to stab myself through the heart.
Wow. Okay, it's much more serious than I thought it was.
But I always felt like at that age it was the best way I can describe it is how there are people who are trans.
I'm going to call this episode Dana and Ken's How to Pick Up Chicks.
How to pick up chicks. Hey baby, want to see my 5-year-old suicide attempt scar? I'll sign it for you.
And what was their reaction to that?
They were just like, what the hell's that about?
What are you, queer?
Yeah, they were. You know what they thought it was? They thought, that's a real faggy thing to do. Oh, my God. Hey, femme. Yeah.
Hey, faggotini. Yeah. Get the knife out of your chest.
They thought it was because my iguana had died. So I was just like, sure, if that's what you want. But it was like the way I just... I should mention I had an iguana, which I didn't even really like.
He killed himself. I didn't even know he had an iguana.
He loved that goddamn iguana.
They're so cuddly.
We blame the iguana. It was a murder-suicide pact between him and the iguana.
And Jub.
Yeah.
It's a quiet Monday, high atop the Mulholland Drive view shelf, as it's called.
Is it a view
by
shelf?
Our zoning board here in beautiful Southern California. I was in Ojai yesterday. It's just a beautiful place.
Is it worth me going to Ojai?
Oh, yeah. Ojai's great. It looks like Tuscany. It looks like mini Tuscany.
You have to recommend a good bed and breakfast where the doggies can stay.
I don't know if the Ojai Valley Inn will have dogs, but they might. It's a quiet little hippie town.
Yeah.
And
there's hippies who have sold out.
Hippies but like,
who have sold out.
Wealthy older hippies. Yeah, people in hippie guards that are 74 years old, and they spend the summer on Martha's Vineyard and the rest of the year in
How
in
did
Ojai.
they make their money?
Oh, they're all in various.
Yeah.
A lot of actors. Peter Strauss, you'll see up there. The late great Bill Paxton, I used to see all the time.
Oh, is that right?
Bill lived up there. But it's really beautiful, and but I love living in California.
Yeah, you see more of it than me. Is it Ojai? What else do you love about here?
Ojai is a very quiet, bucolic little town. And one day I was in the park with my kids, and I was looking around. I was like, God, this place, it's like Mayberry. In fact, the only kids here that aren't white are mine. Wop, wop, wop. But yeah,
Dana Gould bringing diversity
that's right.
to Ojai.
Well, that's why my book is called Gunpoint Diversity.
Gunpoint?
Forcing diversity onto people. I live in California. I'm from Massachusetts. And I literally moved as far away from home as I could get.
Yes.
And
me too.
Every time I go home, and this isn't specific to my family, it's just the nature of where you grew up. I'm like, oh God, I wonder if I'll ever, want to go back there and stay there. And, it's like you can't take the Massachusetts out of the boy. And
yeah.
And then I go home and I'm there for about 21 minutes and I'm like, I got to fuck out of here.
You feel a tightness?
I got to get home. I got to get out of here. I got to get out of here right now. Yeah,
really?
There's some things I like, but I'm also like, I got to get out of here. I got to go.
Do you feel claustrophobic or is it just like memories come back?
I think it's just a lot of
memories.
You can't go home. Yeah, sense memories.
That's great for acting. Yeah. Sense memories. Like,
I'm remembering holding a cup and pretending to hold a cup. Did you purposely move to California to get away from New York?
No, I didn't. It happened organically for me, and it was free trade, and it was cruelty free.
Nothing.
What happened
is cruelty free.
But what happened for me is that I got cast in the movie Old School, and I came out. They put me up in Venice Beach. They put me up in Venice Beach, a half a block from the ocean. I was like, I really like this. And my manager was here in LA, and she kept telling me, Eddie, there's more work out here. And when I was in Venice, I was like, I really like California.
Sure. Yeah.
I just kind of,
especially when you're on a movie, because you have the illusion of being so
I
special.
didn't know. Right. I didn't know.
Eddie, hi, Carolyn calling from Wardrobe. Would you want to come by tomorrow and try on some pants?
We have Darjeeling tea.
I'm so important. People want me to come by and watch me try on pants.
On a big movie, too. That was a big movie. That was a studio movie. So they were, every time I got on set, they were like, bring Eddie something beautiful. Bring Eddie something beautiful. Like, it was so broad. It wasn't even specific.
Eddie would like to cuddle a baby koala bear. Yeah.
No, but that was a movie. That was funny that I was not a major player in that movie, but Will Ferrell, Vince Vaughn, and Luke Wilson were the three leads. And then me.
That's a huge movie.
Yeah, but it was me, the guys I hung with, me before Rob Corddry hit. Me, Rob Corddry, a guy named Rick Gonzalez, who went on to do a bunch of movies, and Simon Helberg, who became famous with Big Bang Theory.
Oh, that's funny.
And Simon does a bunch of movies now, too.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
So it was us guys, and we were the fraternity members, and it was kind of glorified extras, but we had a few lines, and we were there for like weeks, and I didn't know.
You made a lot of money on that movie.
I made some money, and I didn't realize that would be the vortex for me.
The vortex, the apex.
The apex.
That's how you peaked.
He misspoke. Yeah, I peaked early. And I was living in Venice.
Yeah.
But the thing about living in Venice, now I don't know if
why did they put you up in Venice?
Oh, they didn't put me up. Well,
they were like,
my friend. Here's what happened. I knew a couple of people.
Okay. Now the story unravels.
I knew a couple of people when I got here. My buddy Walter, such a New York guy. Like, seriously, a guy was like, Pep, I'm in Venice. Why don't you stay with me? So I stayed with Walter And then he got me an apartment, and this is hilarious. He got me an apartment with a model. I check this out. I shared an apartment with a model right above him, and she kicked me out because when she left, I would like want to play with her lovebirds. They were a pair, and I would take the lovebirds out of the cage. And like they were so sweet and put them on my shoulder. And then she came home and one of them was flying around and she flipped out at me. I was such an asshole back then as far as boundaries. I was like, well, fuck it. I think her name was Maya or Mia, something that was like the expansiveness of the universe.
And like a stunning model.
She was beautiful. And I was like, I really like LA. I'm here
and
in
people
Venice.
see you guys leaving the apartment together, like you go to lunch, and people think, God, that guy's going to be rich. What are they doing there?
So it was hilarious.
Or your first day together, like, yeah, that's great. Okay, we'll be roommates and great boundaries. And you want to get something to eat? Sure. And you go outside, and then the minute you hit the sidewalk, you just start screaming, can you believe I'm fucking this chick?
The guy who looks like an ex-boxer with this beautiful,
Hey, baby,
come on.
I'm fascinated that you lived with a model.
For a couple of months
That's
in
a
Venice, and she tolerated me. She was one of these people who was very funny. It was so LA, and I loved it because I was so New York. I had not lived anywhere else but New York. And I came here, and I would come into our place. It was her place, but I would come into the place, and I would hear her with a self-help tape on, like booming, and I'd be like, turn down that self-help. Like, no, but seriously, through her door, she would be listening to, and there's a golden ball of light. And I was like, there's nothing better than this because, as a New Yorker, I just grew up with.
But I like that you accepted it and you were like, this is bullshit. I want to be in the Bronx with my friends whose names are Joey and Mickey.
The pizza sucks here.
Yeah.
That's
and that same old bullshit rat, you got an egg cream and you play stickball and then kids had real names like Mickey and Joey. Yeah, they did it in the 40s.
By the way, I still hate the way Hollywood, they don't do it as bad, but the way they just portray New Yorkers in the films, they all talk like that. Yeah. Hey, Mikey! Like, really? Come on. New York is an erudite place.
Sure,
if they've ever been to the Upper West Side.
It's the capital of the world, yeah. Cities aren't what you depict them as. People think, well, Atlanta, that's got to be really racist. People
Not anymore, right?
They think Boston, well, it's a liberal capital of the world. Atlanta is the most integrated city I've ever lived in my life. To the appearance of me as a visitor, just seamlessly integrated. Whereas Boston is so racist.
Is it so segregated still?
And just like the racial tension is so.
Parts of
in
New York,
Atlanta, you'll see mixed race couples that don't even look like they should be together. Like you see a guy like in a Confederate flag hat with a super hot black girlfriend. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Hi, baby. Spit in his jaw. It's very strange.
I still don't understand the South at all. I've never lived down there. Now I have stayed in Atlanta a bunch of times too, and that's my feeling as well.
Well, I used to spend a lot of time in the South because my mom is from Virginia, so we used to go to the South. We used to go to Virginia like every summer when I was a kid, so I know the culture a little bit. Yeah, it's a totally different place. It used to be like America's two countries. I'm beginning to think it's 50 now, and I don't mean states. I mean, I've talked about it before, the law of unintended consequences. Yeah. How like the internet was supposed to unite us, and instead it just carved us up into smaller little fiefdoms.
Did the South vote for Trump? They did, didn't they?
Yeah,
more or less.
I think a lot of people did.
But I'm always...
you must be very happy with how well things are going. It's very surprising how much he's pivoted. I love to hear talk about the pivot. I love to hear talk about the pivot. Is he finally pivoting?
It is unbelievable. We were talking before air just how the Trump fatigue is just amazing. Like, I thought that I was going to be super active in the resistance when he got elected. But what has happened to me...
Well, I'm super active in deleting resistance emails unread.
Yes, me too. Me too. First of all the emails ask for money.
Yeah.
All of them. We can't let this happen.
Yeah.
Delete.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I do like come out of, this hiding and start reading about what he has done, like recently dropping the largest, like all of a sudden.
I thought it was too much that anchors actually masturbated while saying mother of all bombs.
Oh, what happened to Brian Williams?
They gave
by
it
the way?
Cute little nickname, and it's the mother. It was like remember shock and awe?
Yes.
It's like, didn't
they learn their lesson?
But did we ever revisit the fact that we shocked and awed the wrong place?
Did we?
Well, we shocked and awed them because they had weapons of mass destruction.
Right.
And then it turned out that they
Did we?
didn't.
I'm like, did we? Yeah.
And we never
Yeah.
really had a big, shocking, awesome apology.
By the way, what is clear
What
to
about
me-
humility and shame? Did we ever do that? You suffered a profound level of neglect.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it was
Kids need to be raised.
Yeah, and I definitely wasn't. I was
Yeah.
a free range kid. I
Yeah.
mean, but part of the good thing about
And my children keep me sane.
Yeah.
For sure.
I mean,
Because you get to correct
yes.
all of that stuff.
That's when people, I always joke, but I'm serious when I say this, and I don't have children, and part of the reason is because my bloodline is so terrible, and I joke about
Well,
this
my
and say,
children are not of my
right,
bloodline.
wish I would do, but I'm like,
Coincidence?
I always go, it ends here, guys. This is what I can do. I'm putting into it.
Well,
Yeah.
I can tell you, when my I don't think she would mind me saying this. My ex-wife and I have been. We were my wife at the time. We'd been married for a little bit, and she'd been kind of weird, quiet. And I said, "What's going on?" And she goes, "Well, it's something I want to talk to you about." And because we're already married.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "What?" She goes, "Well, I read this book called The Lost Daughters of China about the one-child policy in China." I go, "Yeah." And she's like, "I think instead of having children, I want to adopt a child from China." And I was like, boy, did you marry the right guy.
Yeah.
Like, she thought I was going to be like, what? My blood?
want me in the future.
No problem.
You're like, I'm so glad you brought this up because I've purchased us tickets to go to China yesterday.
That's what I
So, I mean,
married the right dude.
part of it was that, and part of it was also I think I was sort of I realize now is punitively kind of saying to my parents, you don't get to be grandparents. Like it was kind of like
that's
you don't,
interesting.
which I realize now. But
That's funny.
so I always say, I like all this kid stuff and all this stuff I like when I was a kid, but people are like, you reliving your childhood? And I'm always like, no, I'm rewriting it. I'm
Right.
experiencing the things I enjoyed in my childhood in an environment that I now like where I'm, a more fully formed person. And,
So, again, it's creepy.
Yeah, I'm sorry that it's creepy.
No, the similarities.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
Look where I live. Look,
I know. Oh, this is like a dream.
Yeah.
This is it's. So it was, and they just didn't get. Like my family didn't get me.
And
Like,
it's so funny because the stuff that I like is the stuff that I liked as a kid that gave me a sense of calm and a play. Star Trek, Dark Shadows, Kolchak the Night Stalker, Godzilla. All those things that I watched as a kid are the things that I still watch now. It's Sunday night. I'm going to watch The Night Stalker at 10 on MeTV.
Yeah.
I have it on DVD. I'm sure I've seen it, but
when it comes on, it's different, though.
Yeah, when it comes on, it's
came
different.
to you, it was a salvation, and that's sort of where to the point of how did I get into The Damned? Being up late at night on my own in a quiet house and flipping through the channels and stumbling on The Young Ones, which I had no idea what it was. I see this show and I see The Damned come on and play Nasty, and
Right.
Dave's a vampire, and this song is amazing, and I never heard him, and I'm like, this is everything I love in the world, right
But
here.
you're how old?
5. And so
So you got into The Damned at 5.
Yeah. And I started listening to, we had college radio stations. Harvard had a station called WHRB that
I
did the
remember.
Record Hospital,
Yeah,
which
I
was punk
remember.
rock all night. I'd stay up and listen to that, and I'd have a notebook, and I'd write down bands I liked. And
At 5?
At 5. And,
That's kindergarten.
Yeah. Which now is insane. Like,
Yeah.
when I think about how weird of a little kid I was, my dad moved a couple years ago, and he and my mother had been divorced, but he was like, I got a bunch of crap here. And he's like, I get your Sid Caesar autograph. And I was like, what are you talking about? I don't know if I've told you this story before, but I was like, what's Sid Caesar? He goes, well, when you were 2 years old, you found out Sid Caesar was doing dinner theater in Framingham, and you made us go to the hotel he was staying at to meet him. And I didn't remember it, but there's a photo, and I have the autograph, 1982, Sid Caesar. And I'm like, can you imagine a 2-year-old who is basically a baby.
Yeah.
Being like, I would like you to take me to this hotel to meet Caesar.
Wow.
So I don't even know where that came from.
I called Jonathan Frid in his hotel room when he was
Nice.
doing Arsenic of Old Lace, and I don't even remember how he knew what hotel it was in. And he was very nice, but it was clearly just a weird kid's calling.
Yeah. And so, like, I don't even know how I found it. So, like, thinking about me that age now, it's very strange. But that sort of put me in the path. Like, there's a few things I don't remember when I first heard or started liking. That one I do because I remember that incident. But, like, I always like comic books. I always like horror movies. You know, I always like music. And, like, comic books, I would go to my grandparents' house, my mother's parents, who were alcoholics and very odd people, and
From New England.
You never know. Well, my grandfather's from Norway. He was a big angry Norwegian guy.
Sure.
And they would send me to the corner store, Delaney's Superette, to buy cigarettes and scratch tickets for them at 5-6 years old, but I could keep the change and I'd get comic books.
That was my exercise as a kid. I was a fat little kid. I was a Pugsley Adams looking kid, and my mom would send me over to Rico's to buy Territon 100s.
Yep. But no scratch tickets.
No, I get some scratch.
Yeah, scratch tickets were big. That was.
And I would buy Star Wars cards with the change.
Yeah, that's right. I'd get comics, and it would be worth it for that.
Yeah. Or jugs.
Jugs, yeah, jugs are Cherry Lick, I think was one of them. Butts up.
Because I was international.
It's true. Although there are some good articles in We occasionally in the 70s issues. They got some good things about punk rock.
Well, there was We, and then there was Penthouse, and then there was Penthouse. There was Omni.
Yes, Omni,
which was like the science magazine from
Penthouse
Bob
Publishers.
Guccione. Yeah.
This is funny. My dad had a subscription to Playboy, and my dad, I was constantly catching. In hindsight, he was probably like 25, but like I built a black box in our house, and I put a parental control on it with a code, and so my dad would have to come to me and be like, "Hey, what's a parental code on that?" I'd be like, "What are you watching? What are you watching?" And I'd make him tell me. I was like 13. I remember the only one I remember. He goes, "Foxy Boxing." Foxy Boxing. It was something that Sylvester Stallone's mother produced. It was like Topless Ladies Boxing. But
I remember watching. We had Starcase.
Yes.
And the only movies on Starcase. This is 1979. Apocalypse Now, Serial.
Yep.
With Martin Mull.
Yep.
Clockwork Orange was on. Manhattan. I was watching all these movies when I was in 9th grade. But Emmanuel in Bangkok was on. And I don't know if I saw the edited version or the fact that absolutely nothing happens in that movie.
That's one of the sleazier ones too. Like that
but
one.
the version I saw.
Oh, nothing.
Nothing happens.
Can't even go to a cockfight. Either kind.
Nothing happens. Sylvia Christel looking
around,
wanton.
But my dad, I used to go. He kept them in my mother's hope chest, which later would have a Tego on top of it.
No irony there. But I would go and I would literally read the articles. In Playboy?
In Playboy. And
we did a Simpsons about that, about Bart and Milhouse, where Homer had a bunch, or I think it was Homer's Playboys, but all the photos have been cut out of them.
Yeah.
And then, but Bart, like, really get into Playboy, so he converted the treehouse into like house pad and had like a quadraphonic stereo.
Yeah.
And it was like knew a lot about Lee Marvin.
Fine jazz. Yeah, I mean, that's because there was like
Nietzsche.
There was an article with like Frank Miller, and there was, John Waters interviewing Little Richard.
There were great interviews in Playboy.
My dad was mad when he found out I was reading them, and I was literally like, he knew I wasn't lying when I said I was reading the articles. Like, he wanted to be like, I just love tits, man. Like he just didn't get how I wasn't, so they just
my dad subscribed to Penthouse, which was a little earthier than
absolutely.
Playboy, and as a result, it changes your attitude towards cold cuts. Do you want a pastrami sandwich? Absolutely not.
I don't think so. You know what? I'm a vegan. Hold the sprouts.
I did a movie with Julie Strain.
Oh yeah,
6'1" of fun,
worth the climb.
And she was in Penthouse that month, and she was flipping through the issue on the set, and I was talking to her, and there are the photos of her, and she's holding the magazine.
Yeah.
And they had some quote of hers. She goes, look at this. They put this quote right next to my roast beef.
Yeah. She's a special
That's what
case.
she called it. Yeah.
Did you ever read her autobiography she wrote? It's literally called 6'1" and Worth the Climb.
Well, yeah.
And,
I will say
yeah.
I spent like 4 days with her.
Yeah.
Great gal to hang out with.
She fell off a horse when she was 10. Have you heard this story?
No.
This is what she says. I don't know how true it is, but it makes sense. She fell, and this sort of fits into what we're talking about. She fell off a horse when she was 10 and got total amnesia and had to relearn how to do everything.
Oh, I believe that.
And she says that's why she has no inhibitions, because she also unlearned all the damage you learned in the first 10 years of your life, is what she says.
Could be true.
It kind of checks out.
I do know that. I do know that you can get amnesia like that.
Yeah.
This makes me want to turtle or just go into my own world and just try to live a happy life and instead of being Mr.
I like how you say this makes me try to live a happy life in the way that other people would say punch a wall. This makes me want to live a happy life.
Well,
wait a minute, Eddie. Something's fucked with Eddie. He wants to live a happy life.
The war in Afghanistan
Yeah.
is now 16 years
Yes.
old. And it's very clear to me that war is big business. And,
sure.
But it's big business, and that's what is going on. Trump, the recent bombing of Syria, and then the Moab, mother of all bombs, which Brian Williams called beautiful, beautiful. Did you see that?
No.
Brian Williams. Oh, that was a huge story. Brian Williams was just calling the pictures coming from, wherever they were sending these missiles from, some aircraft carrier, just beautiful. The Tomahawk missiles being launched. These guys are just out of their fucking minds. You know,
they're just crazy.
It was the same type of thing.
But isn't the death toll up to like 94? That's like an average mass shooting here in America. Why don't we just drop a hillbilly with a couple of guns and tell them that it's the government. It's a $12 million.
Why don't we?
Wait a minute. It's like a $12 million bomb, and we killed 94 people. So that's how much per terrorist did we spend?
Hey, Mr. President, we've decided that we're going to just ship over like 10 disenfranchised unemployed people.
It would be cheaper to just bombard people with gold bars. It's just that you drop them from high enough, they'll just pummel through their skulls.
Did you watch or read any about the power of that bomb? Like it's
but I'm not into weapons porn.
Yes, that's what it is.
It's just like I just go back to shock and awe. So the cruise missiles happened, and then that other bomb happened.
Yeah,
is a way
back to back
resetting American foreign policy. It's like, this is a new administration, and we've got a hair trigger, and if you fuck with us, we will fuck with you back. These are all policy statements. That's all it is. The reason that North Korea did what they did was they're testing to see what we'll do. To the international community, Obama was not as aggressive as people thought he should have been. I have a different view of world affairs, but it's like the new president of the United States is like the new guy in the cell block, and you have to break somebody's jaw or no one's going to respect you. It's just one of those weird, ugly, evolutionary hangovers.
But doesn't dropping that bomb, the world's biggest.
I'm not defending it.
No. But doesn't that scare you? And they also have the doomsday clock. You know, the doomsday clock is right, and they've moved it up.
I remember when it was no. I mean, it doesn't. No, it doesn't scare me.
No,
it doesn't scare me because I've seen it before. I've seen this movie. I saw Reagan after Carter.
Right.
I saw Bush after Clinton.
Right.
I've seen this movie before. I know how this goes. Yeah.
Right. But the players are different.
They're not different outside of, they're just different versions of the same guy. Trump, I think with a lot of Trump, it's like, why don't you golf? Go golfing again. We got this. I think it's more Mattis and those people. And I think that they just like, go.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing that I try to just keep in mind, that 64, I just read this, 64% of our discretionary budget goes to the military.
Yes, and the big thing is we need to rebuild our military.
So 64%. Meanwhile, exactly half of the country or a little more is in dire straits, poverty-stricken, all that stuff. And we spend so much money on this bullshit.
Oh,
and we're not making, here's the thing too, and this is a real big one for me, is that supposedly the reason we do this is to make Americans safer. Like we're killing ISIS. What it does is just instill more fear all over the world.
Of course.
And here I'm going to the airport.
It would be so great if you could it would be so much cheaper to just sit down with every person and say, safety is an illusion. You're never safe. You can never be safe because you can never protect yourself from somebody who's willing to die. So you're never going to be really safe.
Yeah.
Have a good day. Here's something I never thought I would see in my life.
Mm-hmm.
People screaming that they're not being allowed to go work in a coal mine. Wasn't working in a coal mine always like I ain't working in a coal mine.
Well,
like in the list of jobs, coal miner is like right behind guy who fluffs the donkey. You know, it's like,
what does that tell you? How desperate are people for jobs?
Yeah.
That's what it tells me.
I want to work.
Because just what you said is brilliant, and I agree. And also coal is such a polluting fucking
well, it's all
industry.
the coal miners. It's where all the clerks from Blockbuster went when Blockbuster went belly up. They went down into the coal mines.
But what a failure on the part of the country to give jobs to people and to create jobs.
Obama was like, here's what we'll do. We'll give you a credit. It's like coal's going away. We're going to give you a credit to go to community college and learn to do something else. And they went, no, I don't want to learn to do something else. I want to go back inside a fucking coal mine.
But how many fucking computer programmers can you have?
No, and they're not enough. What are the jobs there?
There are none.
We're moving into a jobless economy.
Yeah, and by the way, that's why we'll never be safe, and that's why a guy like Trump got elected. I think. Yeah. I mean, there's all those theories about was it complete and utter racism, sexism?
No, it was a bunch of stuff.
It was a bunch of stuff.
It was a bunch of stuff. It was just.
But how Chris Hedges, the guy I read all the time,
right,
just calls America at this point a deindustrialized nightmare because so many of the jobs have gone bye-bye.
Yeah.
And they're taking more away with mechanization. And
one of the greatest things I saw, and they did this on Real Time with Bill Maher.
Yeah.
Was they took Donald Trump's commercials for Trump University, for which he has now paid a $25 million fraud settlement.
Has he?
Yeah. He paid it out like 2 weeks ago. Which is, okay, so this is a fraudulent enterprise proven in court.
Yeah.
And his campaign speeches, and it's the same speech. We're going to make things better. It's just the same shtick. How he would sell this fraud university, how he would sell you on, and
I'm mad at Hillary for being such a, I don't know how you feel about this, but I'm mad at the Democrats more than anybody for fielding such a horribly weak candidate who could not beat this piece of shit. How do you lose an election to a reality TV star?
Right. See, I don't know if anybody could have. I don't know who they. I don't believe that Bernie Sanders would have beat Trump. I know a lot of people say that he would have. I don't believe he would have. He might have been a better candidate, but I just think that this was going to happen. I was like Obama.
Well,
this is going to happen.
Bernie at least was speaking about the real issues, and that was the problem with Clinton.
Alex Castellanos, who's a CNN Republican consultant, said he was in the airport and he saw T-shirts, and one said "Make America Great Again" and one said Hillary Clinton for president. And one campaign did, you might not agree with it, but it did sell you a vision. We're going to get you jobs. We're going to be great again. And the other one was, I'm with her. And it was all about her and not about the country or something.
Yeah.
You have to give people a story, and people vote aspirationally. And people who voted for Trump did vote because they wanted something. The most people didn't vote because they hate Hillary Clinton. They didn't vote because they hate Mexicans. They voted because they want jobs. They want something better.
Yeah.
And they voted for
And where is it? It's a scary place internationally.
Right.
Right.
And by the way, and he's a complete fraud and a complete charlatan, and it will remain to be seen how much the cognitive dissonance of I'm a Republican and so I'm going to vote for the Republican, and the people who will have been brutally ass fucked.
Right.
How many of those people will go, fuck this asshole?
What's going to happen when they finally realize, holy shit, he completely fucking
Well, here's the
lie
thing.
to us. They got fucked on the healthcare thing, which was nice.
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
I know the person the Democrats are going to run against him is a little known congressman named Faggot McWeakling. So that's why I'm worried.
Well, the fuck the Dem.
That was, by the way, I have to give credit to that. That was the late, great Kevin Curran, who was a Simpsons writer, who we lost last year, used to say the Democrats won't be happy until they find a guy named Faggot McWeakling. You're listening to The Damned at 5.
Yes, and I took their records out of the library.
Okay.
And I taped them. The Wakefield Public Library, for some weird reason, someone donated like a punk rock collection there. And I went and they had Damned and Machine Gun Etiquette. And
right.
I took them out of the library. and
you're how
taped
old?
them. 6.
God
5, 6.
damn it.
And then I used to, just
I mean, I was
listen to
literally
radio stations.
I didn't like, up until like 7th grade. My albums were like the story of Star Wars.
Right.
The Star Wars. Like I was such a late bloomer.
I was into
musically.
Peter Pan records big
I
time.
was such a late bloomer musically.
Well, I mean, I got lucky, I think, because, and I actually think about this a lot, where I lived.
I would never describe you as lucky.
No,
in any way, shape, or
absolutely
form.
not.
Well, your wife is.
I was afflicted. She is great. I lived just close enough to the city that I got all the college stations.
Right.
And if I had literally lived 2 miles further north, I wouldn't have got any of them.
Did you get FNX?
I got FNX. Yeah. I got MBR. I got, which was MIT.
I'm friends. I don't want to, put on airs, but I'm friends with my guy Ty.
Oh yeah, I know Ty. I worked in the morning show for years too when I was in college. So it was,
I'm just saying.
Can you get me his autograph?
Probably.
But I was able to, I heard all this music, and I wouldn't have had access to that otherwise in the pre-internet age.
Of course.
And the other piece of it was MTV, which was actually really great at the time, and Night Flight. Night
Flight was huge.
Yeah,
USA's Night Flight.
It was crazy.
Huge. And there was, I remember, now for me, I got in the Night Flight. For those of you who don't remember, USA, the cable network, came on late 1970s, and they had a show called Night Flight, which was, and it sort of was the thing that made me want to move to Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Because I don't know where it came from, but it had an LA feel.
Well, the opening credits was a CGI flying over
the San Fernando Valley, over the basin.
Yeah.
And then the show Fridays had the same opening, and I was like, I want to live there.
Yeah.
I want to live out there.
And Night Flight had that, was the first thing I remember that had that mid-century aesthetic, that Atomica.
Yep.
They'd show old serials and educational films mixed with John Waters interviews and punk rock.
Right. And I remember seeing... I remember watching Bougie Boy.
Yes,
and that was what sort of got me into Bougie Boy. Was in all the Devo videos.
Yep.
Because to me it was like, oh, it's also like a horror movie. It's also like a weird science fiction movie. I can get into this.
It was interesting.
Night Flight was a huge a keyhole into like, oh, you can have this world. You can go over here. You don't have to be into, because everybody in my high school. It was just Jethro Tull and and all that stuff.
Maybe Zeppelin.
There's really cool shit over here.
I got to, in a way, and this will sound way too self-important, but those. I
think this our entire conversation.
That's true. My entire life is self-important.
This entire conversation. I don't know if anybody's going to enjoy this, but I'm going to. This is sort of like the emotional live at Leeds.
Yes, Go down there. Yeah, we're day 4 of the podcast, everybody. We lost a lot of good men here.
Yeah, I think in 7 minutes we were talking about our suicide
yes,
records.
Well, that's what you do. Yeah. But
we are stand-ups.
It's true. We can't talk about this on stage. I've tried to. If people don't like it.
I did it for a long time.
I talk about my mom's death a lot on stage because there were a lot of funny things about it, and people just they clam up immediately. And no matter how you frame it, it's really weird.
It's interesting because Emma Arnold, one of my favorite comedians and a really good friend, has some similar stories from childhood, and the way she approaches it, and it's great to watch it evolve. It's great to watch her find her footing. I went into it like
head on, rip the Band-Aid off.
It was my whole thing for a while.
I never really. It's
As Bobcat Goldthwait once introduced me, please welcome the creepily truthful.
You ready to get uncomfortable? Because we're going to get real uncomfortable, and it's going to have nothing to do with the AC. Everybody.
Exactly.
What did you have? A night flight, bougie boy.
Night Flight.
Oh, it was curated. That was the thing. It was you would stumble on stuff that was curated by somebody,
Right.
So it had some sort of coherence, but it was
Yeah.
still also like I don't know what's
Mike
going to happen
Nesmith
next.
would curate it.
Yeah,
one night.
yeah,
Yeah.
and you're like, I have no idea what's going to happen. And,
Yeah, no,
and-
Night Flight was awesome.
and so, this was the ridiculously self-important thing I was going to say was I wasn't sleeping, but in a lot of ways, Night Flight sort of acted like dreams. Like I was sort of
Okay, yeah, yeah.
experiencing the things that the
Yeah,
weird,
'cause what,
surreal.
What happens if you don't dream? If you 'cause
you
you're-
lose cognitive ability. I talked to actually a Harvard professor who's the guy who discovered, in a way, why we dream. And it's still theoretical because it's impossible to actually prove it. But he did a fairly famous psychological
I
test.
found out why we dream. I dreaming.
You're crazy. And then I forgot and I woke up. I don't know why I turned into George Carlin there. Dreaming. Weird. It's weird, right? I got some dope. So he did this test where he had people play Tetris and then
Right.
stop at a certain time, go to sleep, and then play it the next morning. And when they slept a certain amount of time, they were always better at it than it was trying to prove like if you crammed all night, would you
Right.
be better if you slept. And essentially his theory, and there's a lot of stuff that I'm not smart enough to understand that backs this up, is that your brain is essentially filing everything it learned that day.
Okay.
And the way it files it is by like events. So if it goes, oh, you played a video game today, you did that before, let's store that there, let's store that here. And so your dreaming is sort of a side effect of sort of all those things getting stored, which is why, it doesn't make a lot of sense to you, or like you're like, where did that come up?
But what I also find interesting about dreams is clearly there's tons of sleep and dreaming for obvious reasons are fascinating me. Because to you and I they've been elusive.
Yeah.
And that is the ultimate example of you don't know what you got till it's gone.
Yeah.
But what I find strange about dreams is that they are also your emotions taken away.
Yeah.
Because like I've had dreams recently. I had a dream this week where like I was in a fight or but you're not afraid.
It's like watching a movie that you're also experiencing.
Yeah. That's well put.
But like neither also.
Yeah.
And and weirdly, sleep is also incredibly physically restorative. Like they've done,
yeah, totally.
This sounds weird, but one of my favorite sort of medical oddities of the last couple of years was that they discovered that people with rabies, they put them in a medically...
I'm listening.
Yes. Let me tell you about rabies. They put them in a medically
Ladies.
induced coma for 2 weeks, and then they're cured.
Really?
So they were basically like, sleep restores you. We just weren't letting people's bodies heal long enough. So it's
Really?
countries, yeah, and it's really weird, and they're still sort of learning about that stuff. So has a.
I wonder if that
cognitive
would
thing.
also affect Lyme disease.
Potentially, although Lyme disease is a neurological disease like MS, and rabies is not.
Oh, okay.
And Lyme disease is some really weird treatments for that, where the reason it's so hard to treat is because the membrane around your brain is almost impenetrable.
Right.
So they can't actually get medications in there.
Yeah, I know. There's a doctor in Venice who treats ozone therapy.
Yeah.
Which is a fascinating way to treat different diseases.
One of the things they do is that there's sort of mixed effectiveness data, but they'll lower your body temperature to a point that's dangerous,
right?
And the membrane on your brain becomes permeable at that point, and then they'll infuse the drugs to fight the Lyme disease. But there's a lot of interesting stuff, weird stuff like that.
Things the Nazis did.
Exactly.
I go in
Me
waves
too.
from being really amped up, and then I can't keep up with it.
Right. What happens? It's like I get furious. I get like, but everybody's got to kind of come together. Like, it's got to be a community thing. It can't be people sitting behind their computers.
Well, that was
like
great.
I do that too. Like sitting behind my computer, tweeting things and going, "That was a good one." Like for me.
Well, did you see the SNL short with Louis C.K.? I think it's like, thanks. No. It was just about like how, people sit in the toilet with their laptop and feel like they've made a difference.
Right. Right, there's got to be, and the marches, I guess, have been encouraging. But
what's encouraging is that all of these special elections in these Republican districts, and the Republicans are just squeaking through. That's what's encouraging.
Oh, okay.
That Georgia special election, the Democrat might win. It's Newt Gingrich's old district. That's encouraging. But that's also almost inevitable. It's for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Yeah. That is physics.
Yeah.
It's unavoidable. And that's the weird thing that I keep going back to. And I think this is something that you don't learn until you've seen a couple of these cycles go through, is that our side is never going to win. And their side is never going to win.
You mean it's going to be a compromise of something?
No, it's always ebbs and flows. We will go in a more progressive direction, and then we'll go in a more conservative direction, because the minute you give people pie, they start to want cake, and the minute people get cake, they start to want pie. It's just the way things
Here's
work.
The thing, though, about that. Yeah, I agree with that to an extent, but here's the thing. What's happening, and this is what there are a couple of things that really fucking piss me off about Trump, but the shit that he is doing environmentally is so fucking bad.
Yes.
And now, I don't know about you, but that is one issue that I kind of keep on top of. And the Arctic shelf melting. Yeah. We have a shelf here that you call the
Mulholland View shelf.
It is not melting, but there's a finite thing going on environmentally.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, then
who was it? Is it?
Well,
is
then
it a guy
I
named
go to
Scott Pruitt, who
I step back to the George Carlin thing. Like, I worry about my children's future, obviously, but there is it's an existential threat that people can't wrap their head around.
What does Carlin say again?
What Carlin says is like, save the planet. Like, no, planet's fine. We're fucked, but the planet will be fine. And there is that macro thing like, we're gonna industrialize ourselves right off the fucking planet.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
All right.
He's restarted the Keystone fucking pipeline. He's they're doing the Dakota Access pipeline.
Yeah, we're gonna do it all for jobs. It's just putting people to work.
I read recently too that he said, "Well, we're gonna build these fucking pipelines with U.S. steel," and then he was told, "Oh, Mr. President,
it's too late.
We can't because the steel's already been ordered."
Yeah, we already own the steel. Okay, so we're not. Well, no,
Next one.
He hasn't said.
Next one.
He hasn't said anything that he's done.
Yes. Yeah.
Of any import, and he won't. He won't.
No,
and it just matters to whether or not people care. You're not going to build a wall across the southern border of the United States of America.
Yeah, what is going on with
nothing? It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. You're not going to repeal Obamacare. But this is
the wall isn't happening.
Has anybody ever? When has he ever been consistent about anything in his life? He's
in the moment.
He's a spokesman. Yeah, he's a card sharp. He's a con man.
Yeah, But he won because he played on hate. He was like, "These are bad people. Yeah. We're going to keep them out. We're going to build a wall." And people are like, I just,
it's the oldest thing in the book, and you just kind of like,
So you've basically kind of, it seems, because I remember when it first happened, you've basically kind of calmed down about it, and I think I have too. Or I don't know if it's resignation or calming down.
It's part resignation, and it's also part just like seeing him come up against the lethargy of government, and there's a lot of bad shit happening, and I don't want him to be the president, and he may end up getting impeached with this Russia stuff. It's like I want to see him humiliated, but I don't know if that will ever happen. I hate bullies.
Yeah,
I hate bullies.
He is a fucking bully,
and when I see a bully, I want them destroyed and humiliated. And it's one of the reasons that I don't like that sort of jerk face conservative meathead conservatism, the Sean Hannity, I'm a tough guy, jerk conservatism. I don't like bro comedy. I just don't like.
All right, you don't have to come at me.
I don't like any of that stuff, and but it's like it's just something that's going to
macho shit.
Yeah, it's just macho shithead.
Hypermasculinity is the word.
Hypermasculinity, preening, strutting, jerky bullshit, and But it's
we're both about vulnerability on stage, which not in our lives.
No, but that's why. And I learned vulnerability from my dog. Which is why the first thing I do when I walk out on stage is I make a little submissive pee. I leave a little. I make just a small puddle.
Margaret, I told you it was a bad idea to sit up front in a Gould show.
Oh, Al, come on. We love the Blue Man Group. This is just a little more toxic.
It's coming. Here it comes. It's intermission time. Time to visit our concession stand.
Casper is an online retailer of premium mattresses for a fraction of the average price. Casper is revolutionizing the mattress industry by cutting the cost of dealing with resellers and showrooms and passing that savings directly to the consumer. Designed, developed, and assembled in the USA, Casper is an obsessively engineered mattress at a shockingly fair price. With over 20,000 reviews and an average of 4.8 stars, it's quickly becoming the internet's favorite mattress. It combines memory foams to create an award-winning sleep surface with just the right sink and just the right bounce. And all Casper mattresses are made in America. An award-winning mattress that won't disappoint. Try Casper for 100 nights, risk-free in your own home. If you don't love it, they'll pick it up and refund you everything. Free shipping and returns to the U.S. and Canada. Get $50 towards any mattress purchase by visiting Casper.com/Dana and using the promo code Dana. Massachusetts is shaped like a shoebox, with an arm jutting out the end of it, curled up to make a muscle. Now, with that hideous image in your mind, direct your attention to that arm's elbow. Right down there near the corner, you'll find the city of Fall River, home of many now shuttered textile mills and the largest collection of decommissioned World War II naval vessels. Fall River is a typical New England mill town, populated by typical New Englanders. And that goes for better and for worse. This is the story of one such family, a family that suffered from, shall we say, poor skills in the area of conflict resolution. Andrew Jackson Borden was one of Fall River's most prosperous citizens. He was also, by all accounts, something of a dick. Born in the early 1800s, he struggled financially early in his life, but finally got his act together and made a sizable bankroll in the manufacture of furniture and, ironically for him, caskets. Despite being very wealthy, he had about $8 million by today's standards. He was incredibly cheap, to the point that his house did not have hallways, because he considered hallways wasted space. Andrew and his wife and their 2 daughters lived in a modest 2-floor home when they could have lived in a much bigger, much less modest home. The home had no indoor plumbing, and because it had no hallways, the rooms were all jammed together, creating the sense of living in a giant rat maze. This also completely eliminated the flow of air, which combined with the previously mentioned lack of indoor plumbing and the hot weather made the house kind of a miserable shitbox, especially in the summer of 1892, which, according to the World Almanac, was hot as balls. With daily temperatures hovering in the 90s and hundreds, the summer of 1892 saw horses collapsing in the streets of Fall River. Now, add to that a bunch of wool clothing, and you might understand why tempers back then flared a bit. But as you will see, there's a limit. Andrew Borden had 2 daughters, Emma and Lizbeth. Their mother died when they were young children, and 3 years later their father married Abby Gray. Now, Emma and Lizbeth were not that crazy about Abby Gray, But in fine New England fashion, they kept things cordial. Here was their problem with Abby Gray. This was the 1800s, and women either got married or lived as spinsters. As for both Emma and Lisbeth, the marriage window was rapidly closing, and although they each had several suitors, they never quite reeled in a winner. Life as a spinster was depressing, but not necessarily the end of the world, provided you were provided for. And for that you needed money. In Emma and Lisbeth's case, their father's inheritance. The concern was that slowly, day by day, bit by bit, piece by piece, Abby Gray was peeling off their inheritance for her own family's use. In the past year alone, she had persuaded her husband to give a house to one member of her family, and he was now in the process of handing over a farm to someone else. Tensions mounted. Emma and Lisbeth's resentment grew. Although the family's maid, Bridget Sullivan, attested that she never heard a voice raised in the Borden household, the Borden sisters took to calling their stepmother Mrs. Borden and stopped taking their dinners with the family. Then one day, some cash disappeared from Mr. Borden's safe. It was obvious that his daughter Lisbeth was the culprit, or as she was called, Lizzie, and everyone as a result started to padlock their doors. The front door itself had 3 padlocks, and now everyone's bedroom had a padlock as well. Mr. Borden bought a padlock and left its key on the mantelpiece, as if daring his daughter Lizzie to take it. Lizzie loved animals, all animals. In fact, she built a coop of sorts in the family's barn loft to feed and tend to the neighborhood pigeons. Unfortunately, this led to an unforeseen circumstance. The young boys in the neighborhood would frequently break into the Borden family barn and try to hunt the pigeons. Well, Andrew Borden didn't care for that, and so he came up with a rather, let's say, extreme solution. He went in there with an axe, got every pigeon, and cut its head off. Nice. This, combined with the family conflict over Emma and Lisbeth's dwindling inheritance, the hot summer heat, set the Borden household to boil. On the sweltering morning of August 3rd, the former Abby Gray went to their local doctor to tell him that she believed she had been poisoned. Her illness, she had been up the entire night before, retching with an awful stomach ailment, was blamed on bad mutton, which had been lying out in the heat now for a couple of days, but that cheapo Andrew Borden insisted the family keep eating until it was gone. That said, later that same day, Lizzie visited a pharmacy in town and tried to buy some poison, prussic acid. She said she needed it to clean an old coat, but was not allowed to buy it without a prescription. Lizzie's sister Emma then left Fall River to visit a sick friend in Fairhaven. This left Lizzie at home alone with her parents and her real mother's brother, her Uncle John Morse, who was visiting. The following morning, August 4th, broke hot and mean in Fall River, Massachusetts. At 7 a.m., Andrew Borden and his wife Abby had breakfast with Uncle John, who then went off to visit relatives in another part of town. Lizzie went upstairs as she didn't want to eat with her stepmother anymore. The curse of the bad mutton had since moved on to the family maid, Bridget Sullivan, who punctuated her chores that morning by running in and out of the house to boot, this being before the invention of sick days. At some point that morning, between 9 a.m. and 10 a.m., while Andrew Borden and Uncle John Morse were out of the house, and Bridget was out back either being sick or in the house doing dishes, and Lizzie was either upstairs or out back, depending on whether or not you believe her testimony, someone went into Abby's room and hit her in the head with an axe 19 times. And then, nothing. Bridget went back to doing dishes, and Lizzie went back to fooling around on the internet or whatever it was that people did in the 1890s. All was right with the world, if a little wet and really quiet, in Abby's room. Andrew Borden came home around 10:40, went into the sitting room and took off his shoes. And then, at some point, between 10:55 and 11 a.m., he took 11 axe blows to the head. At 10 minutes after 11, Bridget Sullivan reported that Lizzie screamed to her, "Come down, someone has killed Father." And from there, the shit hit the fan. Police arrive. A crowd gathers. Finally, someone begins to inquire about Mrs. Borden. Where's Abby? At which time someone went upstairs into her bedroom and the shit hit the fan again. The initial investigation was based on the premise that an axe-wielding madman snuck into the Borden house and killed Mr. and Mrs. Borden while not killing Lizzie and Bridget Sullivan. This would also have required him or her to kill Mrs. Borden and then hang out for an hour without killing anybody else. Lizzie told the police that she was in the loft of the barn looking for small irons to use as fishing sinkers at the time of the murder, and after having found them, hung out for about 20 minutes up there eating a pear. Police later realized that it was about 100 degrees in the barn loft at that time, and the thick coat of dust on the floor was undisturbed by footprints. Lizzie then said, "No, wait, did I say that? No, I was in the backyard." Ha ha! Gotcha! Wrong. Because over the course of the investigation, a witness came forward that corroborated that, yes, at least for a moment, Lizzie was indeed in the backyard. Lizzie's interview with the police was strange and at times contradictory. She was in the house, and then she wasn't in the house. She heard a noise, and then she didn't. But assuming she was innocent, she would have been in massive shock, complicated by the sedatives that the local doctor gave her. No murder weapon was found, and Lizzie had not one speck of blood on her clothes, on her hair, or on her skin. Which is no small feat if you just pulled off double axe murders. By the way, why is a murder called a murder, but a murder with an axe gets to be an axe murder? What's so special about axes? And so the day of August 4th came and went with no suspect and no charges filed. The good people of Fall River knew who did it, however. It was visiting Uncle John Morse, who, despite having an ironclad alibi as to having been across town at the time with many, many witnesses, when he went outside of the house to post a letter, he was chased by a mob and nearly killed. The police investigation originally centered around the theory that the axe-wielding madman was a visiting Portuguese laborer who had quarreled with Andrew Borden several days before. But the police could not get around the fact that the murderer would have had to have remained in the house undetected for an hour and a half between murders while not killing Lizzie or Bridget. It just didn't add up. And then Lizzie, whose contradictory statements had previously roused the investigators' suspicions, did something really suspicious. Alice Russell, a friend of the family who agreed to stay with Emma and Lizzie in the chaotic days following the murder, walked into the kitchen and found Lizzie burning a blue dress, which she said was, quote, covered in paint. It was never determined if the dress was stained with blood or paint. But the mysterious action did not help Lizzie's case. Not one bit. Lizzie appeared at the inquest on the day of August 8th. She had been prescribed regular doses of morphine to calm her nerves, and it is possible that this affected her testimony. Still, the district attorney was very aggressive and confrontational. Lizzie contradicted herself, such as claiming she had been in the kitchen reading a magazine when their father arrived home. Then she claimed that she was in the dining room doing some ironing when he came home. Then she claimed that she was coming downstairs when he came home. On August 11th, Lizzie was served with a warrant and jailed. A grand jury began hearing evidence on November 7th, and Lizzie was indicted on December 2nd. Now, by this time in Massachusetts and the surrounding states, the Lizzie Borden trial took on the sensational aspects and news coverage of the O.J. trial or any other super celebrity modern-day gawkathon. And the prosecutor had a good case, but unfortunately, it was entirely circumstantial. A broken hatchet head was found in the basement, covered in blood and hair. And forensics revealed that it was the blood and hair of a cow and not the murder weapon. According to testimony, the maid left Lizzie and her father downstairs around 11 a.m. Lizzie testified that she went into the barn for 20 minutes, and a local man testified that he did see Lizzie out back around the barn around 11:03. No bloody clothing was ever found. No traces of the famous burned dress were usable. And believe it or not, There was a similar axe murder nearby shortly before the trial, though its perpetrator was shown to have been out of the country when Andrew and Abby Borden were killed. But yeah, I guess back then, people did wander into your house and kill you with an axe. That's why they call them the good old days. On June 20th, after deliberating an hour and a half, the jury returned. Lizzie Borden was found not guilty. No one else was ever charged in the murders, and they continue to be the subject of research and speculation. Now, despite being ostracized by Fall River society, Lizzie remained there for the rest of her long life, finally succumbing to pneumonia in 1927 at the age of 67. She lived with her sister until 1905, when Emma moved out as the result of an argument over a party. They never saw each other again. More than anything else, Lizzie Borden is now famous for her rhyme. Lizzie Borden took an axe, gave her mother 40 whacks. When he saw what she had done, gave her father 41. At the time, this was sung by children to the tune of Tarara Boomdier. Lizzie Borden took an axe, gave her mother 40 whacks. You get it. This is a story of family issues resolved in the most New England of fashions. Don't say anything until it's time to get an axe. Great story if it ends there, right? Well, it does. But it needn't for you. Why not pick up a copy of The Borden Murders by Sarah Miller, or The Fall River Tragedy by Edwin Porter, or the 2014 film Lizzie Borden Took an Axe, starring Christina Ricci, or my first exposure to the Borden murders, The Legend of Lizzie Borden, a 1970s TV movie starring Elizabeth Montgomery. That's right, Bewitched, killing people with an axe, the way she should have on the show. All of these are available at Amazon.com. Also on the homepage of DanaGould.com, you'll see options to donate to the show or subscribe through PayPal. Every cent goes back into the show, and please know we appreciate what, if anything, you can do. But that's not all. You can also visit our store at ComedyFilmNerds.com for Bevilacqua Heating and Air Conditioning t-shirts, Dana Gould Hour t-shirts, signed vinyl copies of Funhouse and Let Me Put My Thoughts in You, the vinyl release of I Know It's Wrong, signed CDs and DVDs, Dana Gould Hour posters, canned hams, and cream corn, all signed by me, just in time for your pre-North Korean nuclear apocalypse entertainment storage facility. Boy, after pimping out all of that bullshit, I am hungry. You know, this episode of the Dana Gould Hour is brought to you by Blue Apron. Not all ingredients are created equal. Fresh, high-quality ingredients taste better and are better for you. So it's important to know where your food comes from. Look, I'm a single dad, and I can't cook. My oldest daughter likes to say, I boil steak. But since Blue Apron, they have been genuinely surprised that Dad has actually thrown down some decent meals. The other night, I prepared pork chops and miso butter, and it was fantastic. And I made it. For less than $10 a meal, Blue Apron delivers seasonal recipes along with pre-proportioned ingredients to make delicious home-cooked meals. Blue Apron knows that when you cook with incredible ingredients, you make incredible meals. So they set the highest quality standards for their community of artisanal suppliers, family-run farms, fisheries, and ranchers. Whether it's pork chops and miso butter or spicy shrimp and coconut curry, Blue Apron is bringing you the best. So thank you again to Blue Apron for supporting this podcast. Check out this week's menu and get your first 3 meals free with free shipping by going to blueapron.com/DGH.
Make sure you get yours and enjoy it now.
One thing every teenager has in common with every other teenager: they all feel like they are the first person to ever be a teenager. It's a universal truth. And as you go through the catalog of your life's experiences, it is hard to remember that you aren't the first person to experience what you're experiencing. Especially when it comes to being a teenager or acts of social or cultural rebellion if you live in this country. Because in America, rebellion is a tradition. To that point, it is often true that, for a time at least, every generation thinks they're the first generation to be weird. At least when you're still swathed in the downy narcissism of youth. I remember one night in the late winter of 1986, I was 22 years old. I had just moved to San Francisco. I didn't know a ton of people, and on a perfectly typical cold, rainy, foggy, creepy, miserable San Francisco winter night, I drove by myself to the Lumiere Theater and went to see the movie that all of my friends were raving about, Blue Velvet. What a great movie to see by yourself on a creepy night in a sketchy neighborhood. You see, for the uninitiated, the Lumiere Theater in San Francisco is a little art house cinema that is wedged between two very different neighborhoods with equally suggestive names, Nob Hill and Polk Gulch. Nob Hill is where you go to live if you're wealthy, and Polk Gulch is where you go if you want to get poked in your gulch. But I digress. So, I go to see Blue Velvet, and it blows my mind.
Mommy loves you. Baby wants to fuck. Get ready to fuck! You fuckers, fucker! You fucker! Don't you fucking look at me!
That movie killed me. I had never seen anything like it before.
Yes, that's a human ear, all right.
And of course, I walked out of the theater thinking, no one has ever made a movie that weird before. Of course, how could anything cool have happened before I came along? It's an incredibly narcissistic viewpoint, along the same lines as the people who think the world is going to end next month. Oh, sure, it's been here billions of years, but it's all going to come down while I'm here to see it. But if you want to see a movie every bit as weird as Blue Velvet, even more daring, in fact, and that it was made by a major studio with bigger stars, made 24 whole years earlier, you want to go see 1962's Whatever Happened to Baby Jane.
Want to see it again, little girl? It shouldn't frighten you.
Whatever Happened to Baby Jane is a movie that, to borrow an expression from my father, is as crazy as a shithouse rat. The film tells the story of Jane Hudson and her sister Blanche. Jane was a giant Shirley Temple-like star as a child. She was the model for a top-selling doll and even had a super creepy hit song.
I've written a letter to Daddy. His address is heaven above. I've written, dear Daddy, we miss you. I wish you were with us to love.
But fame and fortune were a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away for Jane. And now she is living out her retirement with her sister Blanche, who as an adult became a much bigger movie star than Jane could have ever hoped to be. A tragic accident has put her in a wheelchair and delivered her into the care, quote-unquote, of her sadistic, envious, and psychologically unbalanced sister. Now these two faded stars and bitter rivals were played by real-life stars and bitter rivals, Betty Davis and Joan Crawford, who, in real life, fucking hated each other. And this hate affair is played out on screen over the course of the movie. Jane, deeply psychotic, believes that her sister Blanche is having her committed to an asylum. Pretty good guess. So, over the course of the movie, she punches her, kicks her, pushes her down the stairs, ties her up, gags her, keeps her a prisoner, feeds her pet parakeet for lunch, tries to feed her a dead rat for dinner, and finally leaves her to die of neglect and dehydration. Along the way, delivering some of the most famous lines in movie history.
You wouldn't be able to do these awful things to me if I weren't still in this chair.
But you are, Blanche. You are in that chair.
The film's ending would make even David Lynch proud. Blanche lies on the beach, dying of dehydration, while Jane, her mind utterly collapsed, dances about her merrily, dressed up and made up as a pretty little girl holding 2 melting ice cream cones. But not all the fun was on screen. Bette Davis hated Joan Crawford. She thought she was a preening no-talent who stole the love of her life, actor François Tone, right out from under her nose. So, in the scene where Jane brutally kicks Blanche down the stairs, Betty missed and accidentally kicked Joan in the real head, sending her to the hospital. Later in the movie, Betty had to drag Joan across the floor, so Joan put on a lead deep-sea diver's weight belt under her dress, causing Betty to fuck up her back. Oh, the list goes on and on. Lastly, Bette Davis was nominated for an Oscar for her role. Joan Crawford was not. But Betty didn't win. The Academy Award that year went to Anne Bancroft for The Miracle Worker. But Anne couldn't make the ceremony because she was doing a play in New York. So who accepted for her? I'll give you a hint. It was Joan Crawford, who went out of her way to walk right past Bette Davis on her way to the stage. Now, I know what you're saying. Dana, doesn't knowing so much about Bette Davis and Joan Crawford make you gay? No, it doesn't. Everyone knows that liking musicals is what makes you gay. But it does bring me full circle. Back to Blue Velvet. I remember leaving the movie theater, walking back to my car. It was late, it was foggy, it was dark, it was rainy. And the only people on the streets were me and this gay hooker dude. Cruiser dude. He was posted down at the corner, and I was walking right towards him. He saw me walk up to him. He looked me in the eye, and then I walked right past him. And I guess he got really offended because he stamped his feet really hard on the ground. Maybe that's code. I don't know. I just kept walking. What can I tell you? Sometimes you feel like a nut. Sometimes you don't.
Settle back now, content, comfortable, well-fed, and ready for some fine entertainment. Is everybody happy? Then let's go. It's showtime.
You're talking about your the weird things of your mom's death and your sister's death.
Yeah.
So who's in your family and when did the death-a-thon start?
So there's just 4 of us. There's my father, my mother, and my sister. My sister was diagnosed with cancer when I was 13. She was 10.
Okay.
Which she survived. It was osteosarcoma, which is a bone cancer and then goes into your lungs, but never really recovered from it in a lot of ways. Had a lot of like long-lasting psychological problems from it.
Well, yeah.
Because that's pretty traumatic. And she had to have an allograft, which is essentially they took out her femur bone and replaced it with a cadaver. It's like a 38-hour surgery. She had that 3 times. Got a lot of infections, went basically full body tattoo, a lot of drinking, opiates, heroin.
Right.
And then
at that point, it was like, whatever you need.
Yes. Yeah. And eventually that killed her. She went to sleep one night, had been clean for a month. All her organs just stopped working.
Was it? Do you think the opiates and the recreational drugs?
Yeah, it was
cancer and
it was a combination. She had a drug I think it's called erythromycin, which is one of the chemotherapy drugs she had, which is known for weakening your heart. So her lifespan would have been shorter anyway, but shorter like 40, not 27.
Right.
So she died when she was 27. My mom and her developed this really kind of sick codependent relationship after my sister was sick, where they kind of lived in this own little weird world.
Right.
No one understands what we're going through, kind of thing.
Oh, was your mom sick?
My mother definitely suffered from a lot of mental illness, and was a pill popper, like a lifelong pill popper. But the doctor gave it to me. It's okay if I take this muscle relaxant.
I've seen some of that at addresses I've lived in as a child.
Yes. My mom was also a compulsive gambler and, would always buy stuff from catalogs when we didn't have any money, but would like max out. Like under the bed was just filled with things from the Spiegel catalog, unopened.
It's so creepy.
Yeah. And so once my sister died, she totally went off the rails. My mom tried to kill herself in 2005 and never really recovered. Like she had the sort of cognitive issues after that.
Right.
So
I can't envision losing a child.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine I really couldn't understand what that was possibly like.
I don't know.
And they lived together.
People who have, but.
And they lived together. They were, every day. It was way, and I wasn't really speaking to them that much at that time because, I have to
survive.
Get up every day.
Yeah.
And
how old are you? 20?
I was, I moved out when I was 18.
Yeah.
And, so I didn't really because every time the phone would ring, I'd be like, what awful weird scam are they pulling?
I 17, gone.
Yeah. I was, because it would always be like, can you drive me to get this thing?
And I survive.
Yeah. But it would be something weird to be like, there's a guy with a boat that I said I would help get this, some guy at the bar, and I'm like, so I would,
yeah.
So sister died.
I always go like, your sister needs a car.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, actually, it's a vintage Corvette. No.
It's down in Raynham.
Yeah.
You're going to trade it to a guy up in Brockton, but just bring it there.
No. If you need a car, I could buy you a Honda. Forget it!
Yeah.
Click.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Yeah.
My sister would call me up. She'd be high a lot, so sometimes I literally couldn't understand a word she said. But she'd call me at work, and it would be like, I need some money. And I'm like, I can't give you money. You stuck up fucking faggot. Or like whatever, like just flipping out. Or like, you think you're better than me. Like that kind of stuff all the time.
Yeah.
So,
yes, I do.
Yes, indeed. You're correct.
Correct. Continue.
100% correct. So my mother never recovered from that. Fuck you. You're a fucking asshole.
I know it well.
Yeah. Oh, and then like they also, the two of them would always run scams. My sister was running check scams all the time, or all this kind of stuff.
Natch.
So they never really understood that people.
It's shameless.
Yeah, they never understood that, but they assumed everyone was like that.
Yeah.
So like my dad, when they got divorced, he went.
It's the same thing insurance companies do.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Actually, no.
Who does it hurt? Do it under the table. But my dad went and lived in a shitty apartment and worked his day job and cleaned toilets at a hotel at night and, bought a condo. And that possibility didn't exist to them. They would be like, your father's got fucking money somewhere. And, so it was like, no. So I didn't talk to them. My sister died, which was a whole cacophony because she was in Texas, and I had to get on the phone with a weird, unscrupulous funeral director because they had sold her leg for parts.
It's
scrapped it. Yeah, she had like this.
Now it's a double cadaver
because at
bone.
the fourth time she ended up getting like a platinum and titanium bone. So I was like,
Now they think she's in the X-Men.
Yeah, we got a fucking RoboCop. I don't know why the Texans are from Southie, but I get
Is this adamantium? You better tell me.
In a funeral home the other day, honest to God, a cyborg. For real.
Fucking cyborg.
Aliens are fucking here. So then my mother...
It's a fucking cyborgs.
Fucking cyborgs come down. They're probably lizards. I don't know.
So did you get the leg back?
No, I got the guy that... This sounds terrible. He knocked money off the price of the funeral.
Okay.
Also, the grave that my sister is in is one grave site. My grandfather, my grandmother, my mother, my sister, and my aunt are all in this one grave because it's the only one the family has.
It's sort of like bridge mix.
Yeah, basically, yeah. It's like Christmas 1989. So my mother never really recovered. She was
sort of like cadaver gumbo.
Cadaver gumbo. It's a little bit of everything in there. They're not going to know.
Growing up in a household where both of my parents were really out of it a lot.
Yeah. Out of it.
Out of it.
chemically unavailable. Chemically unavailable.
Yes.
That I'm used to the person in charge being asleep at the switch. And the country is really going through a big Al-Anon phase. Like, yeah, dad's crazy. Yeah, dad's like everybody it's like whatever his tweet is today, like my cock's a garden hose and my chimney fucks it. Like whatever he says. And people just shrug. Yeah, dad's nuts.
Here's a horrible admission I'm going to make publicly is that
you killed a hobo with your car.
Ladies and gentlemen, no, is that, yeah, the president is a fucking substitute father. And there are times where I watch this guy Trump and I have felt sorry. It's like watching my dad.
Yeah.
Like I'm very aware of it, or at least to an extent that my shrink, who God rest his soul, committed suicide recently because he thought he could take me on, and that
mid-session. Hang on one second.
I was like, what are you doing with the gun? I can change. And then he took his own life, and I was like, whoo, that was close.
I know. Ed, Ed, I don't want you to read too much into this, but this is all your fault. Boom!
But I've watched
What
Trump.
a weird thing for your shrink to do. This is all your fault, and then he kills himself. And it's a symbol of your progress that you reject that.
And the reason he's done that is because none of his patients get any better. And he's like, I'm a failure, but I'm going to fuck this kid.
You walk into his waiting room and it's just people hanging from the rafters like in a butcher freezer.
Who's your therapist? Joey Gallo?
Joey Gallo. We're going up for clams tonight. Wasn't eating clams when he got shot.
So what's your problem? That would be funny.
I don't know
if
about
it's
Joey
been
Gallo
done.
because of the song.
Yeah. But just some mob guy. It'd be funny, a mob guy as your president. As your fucking, there is a mob guy as a president.
What's your fucking problem? Well, I'm filled with doubt. You know what we're going to do? We're going to talk to your doubt tonight. I'm going to send Fingers Moderesian over, and he's going to talk to your doubt tonight.
But
where's your doubt work?
But before we do that, I want you to put your doubt in this chair and talk to it. All right? Just say things like, hello, doubt. How come I don't have faith in life?
Wow. And then you realize this guy isn't half bad. I mean, he's
good.
a dual personality.
Yeah. Here's what you got to do. Sometimes you got to sit your doubt down in the chair, and you got to hit it with a bag of oranges.
I never understood
because they don't bruise.
I never understood the fruit in the bag. And I always,
because you don't bruise.
Yes. And when I heard that, I was like, these, and this is me because I am so insane. Yes. I'm like, these guys do put in a lot of thought to what they do.
First, we tried a shoebox with a pineapple in it. That didn't work.
The progression to get to oranges was rough.
Yeah.
Well, first we just had a sack of knives, and that was cutting.
Let me tell you what was beautiful, and I don't know why it stuck. Super soaker full of cat pee. We would get a super soaker full of cat pee and zap them in the eyes, and that would be just stuff like. I do that to my wife when she told me to take out the trash. I want 5 more minutes. Super soaker full of cat pee. I get 5 minutes.
I mean, that would be funny too if Florida oranges, or the orange growers was like, not only are we a good source of vitamin C, but we don't bruise.
Not only are we a good source of vitamin C, but if you put us in a bag, we don't bruise, and it's a handy way of gaining information from someone from a rival family.
Florida oranges. They're more than healthy.
Right?
They're a way to persuade.
Oranges a way to
Dan, why do you have an orange in a sock? Like one guy just has one orange.
That would be a great billboard. Florida oranges, a way to persuade.
But it is
so much better than a sock full of nails.
It is.
Oh, I bet that would hurt like a fuck.
A sock full of nails?
Oh, yeah. Getting hit with a sock full of like roof nails.
You know, what's funny is that, you might as well just get a board with nails sticking out of it. Like, why put things in bags and socks? Just,
yeah.
It would be funny if, like, the Crusaders, like, had, like, their clubs in bags or socks. Like, hey, why not just have the club out, Bob? We're doing this out in the open. Or it doesn't bruise in a bag. Well, we want to bruise them. We're sending a message here for the empire. By the way, talking about...
I'm sorry. I feel terrible.
Talking about the Crusades and just talking
We were?
all the... No, I'm just thinking of all the violence that has gone on throughout history.
Throughout human history.
We are, I don't know if you agree with this because you're a nice guy, but we are a disgusting species. A disgusting, horrific plague.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
It's unbelievable, though.
Yeah. Of course.
I mean, there's Mozart, and then there's Joey Gallo.
Okay, so
and
here,
no
all
offense.
right, all right, so here's a giant question.
Yeah.
We are taking this to a place I did not anticipate. I thought we were going to spend the entire time talking about your decision to come out about cross-dressing, and we're not even going to get near it. Yeah, we're horrible. And the other animal, and chimpanzees, our closest genetic relatives, also horrible.
Yeah. But the bonobos, have you heard about the bonobos?
The band?
They're beautifully compassionate. I looked
don't.
them up.
No, I
Looked
want
them up.
to. Let's talk about the bonobos because I want to get into that.
Yeah.
But let us say that human beings are the only creatures on the earth that are capable of achieving a state of grace.
Yeah.
Do we not go back to that law of physics, the Newton's law, that for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction? That yes. And because we are the only creatures that can achieve a state of grace, we are also the only creatures that figured out that if you tie a guy to the top of bamboo stalks and keep him alive for 2 weeks, that the bamboo will grow up through his body, which is a Chinese torture.
My God. When I hear about tortures.
Yeah. Well,
like
I've said
what
this in
has been done to
I say this
people.
in my act. We had crucifixion before toothpaste. But, that was the problem. We had to solve. Hey, everybody's teeth are falling out. Yeah. And a lot of guys are walking around not nailed up to boards. Can I just solve one fucking problem at a time, please? Ezekiel ate a peach on a Tuesday. I can't let that go unanswered. Then we'll get to toothpaste. Yeah,
Peach is bruised, by the way.
We spent we spent so much time coming up with crazy tortures. Tortures so far exceeded medicine. It's crazy.
But it's amazing, though, the capacity for cruelty, and it comes from our clan. It doesn't seem like we can go outside of our clan. Like we don't have compassion for others. Like just talking about the Crusades, where just brutally going overseas for the Christian church to convert people, right? The other is a huge thing. Like we don't see this unity, and
it's interesting. The first scene in 2001.
Oh, yeah.
Is two tribes of apes fighting over a water hole.
Right.
It's basically what it is.
Yeah. Now it's
shaved apes fighting over a water. Now it's shaved apes
oil.
fighting over a water hole.
Now it's shaved apes fighting over oil.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, or coal. Gotta get coal body back. It's just so great.
I gotta work in the mine. If this guy, what do you mean, Al? Your whole family died of black lung, and they were better for it. What?
Did you see? Yeah, when the miners came out, there were no old miners. Did you notice that when the coal miners came out to thank Trump, everybody topped out at about 40?
I just remember him going, "That was some hug," like some big blue collar guy at one of his Hitlerian rallies, like hugged him. And he goes, "That was some hug. Let me tell you something. That was not a soft hug." And everybody's like, "Not a soft hug." I love this guy. They were just looking.
Yeah, and hugs are violent now. Well, it's just, but I love people whose bar is set so low. It's like, look, I worked in a coal mine. Your mama starred in gangbang videos, and we worked hard, and now we want you to go out and be the best hooker you can be. And you're not like your mama. You're only going to sleep with 4 men at a time. We're going to top out at 4. Because we want to give you a better life.
I just want to get into a very dangerous small hole in the earth, being sequestered in there by a little wooden dolly. Exactly. And where I can't breathe and peck away at toxic material and come home covered in soot. That's all I want for my family.
I worked hard so your brother could have a job eating boats.
Eating boats?
He's got all the old rotten boats. He eats them. That's his job. Yeah. Get a better job.
Well, there are none. Like we talked about, there are none.
Well,
in
is there the element of the Sam Kinison joke about Ethiopia move to the food, but maybe move to the jobs? But I know I'm being. I'm
No. I also.
Asshole, I know.
Yeah.
I just don't understand people that really can't wait to go to work in a fucking
They
coal
do
mine.
move out of these fucking places, but also environmentally too. Coal mining, they blow up fucking mountaintops.
Oh, by the way,
they blow up fucking mountains.
And this is
they kill everything. It's death.
Yeah.
We live in a culture of death.
And this is also interesting. And Obama was guilty of this too when he was running with. Well, we're putting a lot into clean coal.
What the fuck does that mean?
Nothing.
Yeah. Well, the oil guys.
It does. Clean coal, when you hear it, remember this. It's not a thing. It's a complete, it's like, well, we're really putting a lot of effort into the new lilac scented shit. It's not real.
Yeah, exactly.
So she was doing just awful, was living in this shithole. Eventually, my wife and I were like, come live with us for a bit so you can get on your feet and hopefully you can sort stuff out. She became obsessed with getting on disability. Collecting disability. And I was like, you're not going to get on disability. And she was hanging out this bar.
Eddie Bonaresian fell off a phone pole. He's collecting.
And that's the myth in Boston, too, where she would go to this bar.
It's the golden calf.
Yeah, it's
the golden calf.
They don't even speak English. They got 48 kids. They're collecting old age benefits. You could do that. And I'd have to be like, you don't understand this. Like, my day job, you will not get this. I know this stuff. It's not going to happen. Yeah. And she would literally be like, can I borrow $20 and I'll pay you when I get my disability? No. So she never got the disability. It just got worse and worse. And it was, I've never done a drug in my life, never had alcohol for good reason. And when she was living with us, it was like a 14-year-old troubled teen. Like she'd come home high.
And she's how old at this point?
60. And, there was all this weirdness, like, this guy was going to paint my car because it was like, we had to go, he took my fucking car and
if you could give me $200 in cash on Thursday, I can give you $500 in food stamps that you can change for $400 in cash. But you got to go to Maine.
Yep. Yeah. But it's fine. And so she killed herself in my house.
Oh.
Yeah. And so the joke I was making is my mother died in my house, which was rude. I didn't kill her. She did that herself. But
your mother, just because I was talking and you kind of dropped it in there.
Yeah.
You kind of snuck it by like a goal.
Yeah.
Your mom killed herself in your house.
Yeah.
Okay. And you're how old?
This was 3 years ago, so I was 33. And it was...
I love that you're not being a pussy about it.
Yeah, fuck this. I was like, come on, you could have done it somewhere fucking else. I got to clean this shit up.
Oh, God. Did you find her or did your wife find her?
We both did. So she was staying in our guest room. And,
so you bonded on that?
Yeah, that's, and we, every year on that day, we reenact it, and it's great.
Worst Easter morning ever.
I did feel...
I was looking for eggs.
What did I find? I did feel horrible for my wife, though, because I realized in 2005, my grandfather's funeral, she went... And they don't do open caskets in England. My wife's from England. And we walk in and she's like, what the fuck is that? Like, I'm like, because there's just a freaking body there.
It is a sick. Yeah. It's
weird.
Sick tradition.
And that's the only time she had seen
then
the
you
body.
get extract with the whole concept of cemeteries.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
You back right into the George Carlin bit.
Exactly. So this was like only the second time she'd ever seen a body. And I'm like, man, you're getting everything, baby, when you come marry me.
How did your mom take her life?
Pills.
Okay.
So she had OD'd the Christmas before that, which I do actually think was a mistake because she was just taking so much stuff.
Not a dry run?
I don't think that was a dry run. 05 was. She really, but I think she literally just got confused at that point. But, which I think in hindsight, this time she tried to stage to kind of look like that. But the amount of, opiates in her system, there's like, you can't accidentally take 100.
No, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you take like 4.
This was a gig.
Yeah. So it was, but, and this will sound odd, it was in a lot of ways a best case scenario because she just looked like she was asleep. and we thought she was asleep, but and I really didn't recognize that she was dead till I touched her, and I know what a rigor mortis body feels like, and it's, and I saw the bruising. I
had to identify a guy that got pulled out of a lake once.
Here's a weird story that I realized that I just remembered a couple weeks ago. My mother was always really obsessed with dead bodies. Mm-hmm. And when I was a kid, when they would pull bodies out of bodies of water, she would make us go watch. She would make us go watch. And I remembered this because after she died, her friends were talking to me about
so New England.
Yeah, let's go see.
Fucking Baroque.
I remember being 7 or 8 and asking her why we're doing that. She's like, well, they never show you this part on the news. It's some kind of behind the scenes, we're going on a factory tour.
They don't show brain surgery.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't need to see that. But she told me this, her friend, they went to Catholic school, St. Mary's, and they were a problem. So to punish them, they're maybe 8, 9, the nuns used to make them go to every wake and funeral that they had in the church and stare at the bodies. And I was like, wait a minute, this is all clicking now in a really weird way.
That's the first time I've ever heard of something fucked up happening because of religion.
I think it might have just been this one church, because I don't think it was definitely, everybody. This was probably a rogue church doing something weird, because none of the other ones have ever done anything like that.
No, they're all so good.
Yeah, all of them.
It's so bizarre.
All helpful. So I was like, oh, that makes perfect sense. So it was weird. But I was also like, I don't think she was ever going to get her life on track. I don't think she was ever going to get better. It was decades and decades. She had a horrible child. It was horribly abused.
Some people, the psychic tsunami that people, you surf it, or it kills you.
Yeah.
You can drown in it, or you can learn how to surf it. But even if you're surfing it, you're surviving, but you're not relaxed.
No, you're treading water.
It's a job. It's every day is a job, and I relate to those people.
Yeah,
those are the people that are the closest to me.
It's. I think people, especially of a certain generation, like my parents' generation, look at it like a cold. You got over it. You got your rest. Now shut the fuck up, and you're over it now. And it's like, no, it's a chronic thing.
Well, that was, again, I always think of Kennedys don't cry.
Yeah.
You should.
Yeah.
You should cry.
And
maybe you wouldn't all be alcoholics if you cried a little.
I wish I don't cry. I don't.
Yeah, I don't either.
But I do if I'm watching a movie. A movie will make me cry, but I've never cried once. I've never shed a single tear for any of my family members. I never cry.
No, I haven't either.
And it just doesn't. And it's not that I don't feel empathy or feel bad about it. It's so matter of fact. But I'll watch Babe Pig in the City, and when Fleeleg's little wheelchair flips over and I'm worried that he's going to be dead, Niagara Falls.
Yeah, sure. I cried at my dog Skip.
Yeah. So it's, I don't know if that's just like bleeding the radiator or what.
Yeah, I think different things trigger you.
Yeah.
I think that it's in there, but there's also, my guess is, when it comes to those traditional triggers, like family members, people like you, and to a lesser extent me, you already have such a brick wall of defense up there to protect yourself that's not going to get there. For you to cry, that would mean that wall would be down, and then you would have been exposed to so much other stuff.
Oh yeah, and I'm also the crisis. Like, I'm great in a crisis. Like when that happened,
I'm calm in a crisis.
My mother's
I'm calm in
dead.
a crisis, and I'm a train wreck on vacation.
Yeah. Oh, you know what to do? My wife's going, Hazel, and I'm just like, she's dead. I'll go call, and then the ambulance gets there, and I was so calm.
Yeah.
The guy goes, how do you know? Was she renting a room? And I'm like, no, it's my mother. And he's like, oh.
Right.
And, I'm cracking jokes with the cops while they're filling out paperwork, and because what else are you going to do? I don't know. I wouldn't know how else to conduct myself,
No, I get it.
But you feel weirdly, it is gallows humor, I guess.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't feel like it's fetishizing the sort of morbidity of it.
No, it's a defense mechanism, but the defense mechanism started years before.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not instantaneous. It's like, no. This is, it takes me a long time for that stuff to hit, like in lesser degrees. My divorce didn't hit me until months later.
Yeah. Once everything calms down, it's in the quiet spots because you don't have the chaos to have to deal with, which is a good distraction.
Yeah, and then it hits you, or a relationship ends, and I'm Mr. Okay.
Yeah.
This is how this, and then 6 weeks later, I get hit by a board.
Well, I don't know if this is 100% true for you, but I'm going to assume it likely is. But one of the things about anxiety disorder is that it's in many ways an evolutionary step forward, in that a broken one, but in that we're planning for all potential situations, and it never stops planning is the problem. Mm-hmm. So whenever something does happen, you go, okay, I have a card here with what I do for this. Yep, I got it.
Yeah.
And so once the crisis is over and you don't have anything to draw upon, or there's not a clearly actionable sort of list of things you need to do now, that's when it tends to hit.
It's when it's quiet and everybody goes away.
Yeah, because you're like, now I have nothing to fix, or there's nothing
now I have nothing to batten down.
Yeah, and I don't know what's going to happen next. Like, at least if I know I have to deal with a thing, I know that's next on the list.
Yeah, that's always been a problem. And if anyone I've ever dated is listening,
which they do every month, I'm sure.
But they don't. Usually it works out like it hits me right around the time they're over it.
Yeah,
and that's when hey, can we meet? What?
Who are you?
Yeah.
I remember a girl dumped me once at a Cure concert. Well, I had bought the tickets for.
Boy, talk about when in Rome.
This was her quote. I can't date you. You're too miserable all the time. And then it was literally like, The Cure. Like, then they came on and we had to sit and watch the whole show.
Oh, man.
And I was like, this is really weird. What an odd moment to decide to do this. Yeah.
Wow. But it couldn't have, much better than if it was, up with people.
But we were talking about just the capacity of fucking the human race just to be so brutally dispassionate.
But it's not new.
It is not new.
Yeah.
No, it goes
all the way back. We're just
it's not new, but it doesn't excuse it. And are we not evolving? It doesn't look like it. And
Stanley Kubrick. It's very funny you said it. Stanley Kubrick said what he called.
I heard he was a bastard to actors.
I'm going to get this back to The Shining somehow. Humanity is to each other the way Stanley Kubrick directed Shelley Duvall. It's just a heartless endeavor.
Oh,
but he
ruined her.
He called violence an evolutionary hangover.
An evolutionary hangover, yeah.
Yeah, that we're still working our way through because we're primates and we're
right.
We're not, but gorillas also very docile. Gorillas much better than chimpanzees.
Are gorillas docile?
Are much more docile than chimpanzees.
Yeah. And we just kill gorillas for ashtrays.
I actually strongly support that. No, I know it's all, but it's also
as
like
he flicks his cigar made by people who live 30 to a room.
It's hard for us because we are quite literally at the tippity top of how great people can live. We're not just in the.
Why don't I ever have gratitude for that?
We're two white men who work in Hollywood. Can like 98% of the people listening to this podcast should find us and shoot us.
Oh man!
And if you don't, you're a coward.
Some crazy person who just heard this has made a vow.
Yeah,
just
I'm going to do what as soon as I finish up in this coal mine. And it's also a lot of the progress. I saw this on Instagram, but it's really true. The way that our technology is driven by our base instincts. Like first, remember when we first got portable phones? They look like phones.
Yeah.
Did you have the car cradle? Did you have a cradle in your car for your phone?
Right.
You pop it up. Right. You had a car phone.
I never had one of them.
First,
did you have one of those?
I did, yeah. I had a car phone that had a cradle put in the car. And then we got the flip phone, which is a smaller version of the car phone. And you'd flip the bottom on like this little phone. And it had a pull-out antenna.
Yes.
And then you got smartphones And we thought we were so cool because smartphones, we made them. And then the next one had more to do, but it was a little bit smaller.
Yeah.
And then the next one, you could do even more with it.
Yeah.
And it was a little bit smaller.
Mm-hmm.
And then we found out that we could watch porn on them. And they started to get bigger. And bigger and bigger. And now they're like chalkboards. Because we can watch porn on them.
Oh, my God.
That drives all the technology. Porn and ways to persuade reluctant mafia men who aren't talking. I'm sure like the first person that thought of the moon just had a wife that drove him crazy. Just thought, I'd like to go up there. He'd just go out back every night. He'd just go back every night, look at the moon. God, I'd love to go there. Yeah. That place looks great. But it's quiet.
The Jet Propulsion Lab is just guys who don't have relationships, men and women who are like in horrible relationships. Are like, if we could only open up this.
There are women on Mars. I know it.
We're terraforming Mars. Elon Musk has gone through horrific relationships.
The first thing we're
making space for travel affordable.
This is a movie. It would be like the first thing that's going to happen when we colonize a planet. The first thing that's going to happen is that colony is going to divide into two groups that hate each other. Yeah. And it's just going to start all over again.
It's unbelievable. How do you stop that? Because I
don't think you do. It's how people work.
But what about evolution? Really, seriously, now I listen to a lot of like Buddhism stuff because I am so the opposite. That's a disclaimer. Like that should be on my forehead. And when I go to like a temple, a Buddhist temple, like I am the furthest thing from your belief system.
You are clean coal. You're the furious. You're the furious Buddhist.
Well, I'm Bitter Buddha. That's my nickname, the Bitter Buddha.
That's true. Yeah.
But what Tolle talks about, and this is getting back to why are human beings so vicious? He says it is thinking. Like we are just addicted to the ego, ego or thoughts. And I know this gets a little esoteric.
No, it's great. I'm into it.
And we are just in
I will move this to War of the Gargantuas, but I'm listening.
Gargantuas. But that we are just so self-centered, so thought-centric.
Mm-hmm.
And we just need to stop shallow breathing. We need to start taking deeper breaths. We need to be in the present moment. We need to disengage from all these, and the Buddhists talk about this, all these wants. Like, I want this, I desire this, I want this, which leads to like, I want oil. I mean, greed.
Sure. Yeah.
It's they call it grasping as well. Like, I need this. We don't need a lot. We actually.
Want is the source of all unhappiness.
Yeah. I have a T-shirt that's funny that a guy like me wears. It's called, and the T-shirt just says with a picture of the Buddha on it, "Want less, suffer less." And then I'm in a Starbucks going, "Why is the mocha not here?" No. You guys have it.
That's a great
on
T-shirt.
the board.
Want less, suffer less.
Yeah,
that's very, very true.
I have a T-shirt like that, which whenever I wear it, I feel terrific.
If everybody had just that shirt. I have the funniest T-shirt I ever saw in my life. What do we want? A cure for Tourette's. When do we want it? Cunt.
Somebody has a funny Twitter account that goes by the name of Michael Caine. So I guess you have to read it in Michael Caine's voice, but it just goes, "Hey, I'm sorry for all the profanity here. I'm sorry for saying things like fuck, cunt, and Vin Diesel on here."
My daughter said the funniest thing yesterday. I had an empty coffee cup, and I walked
going
up to
for
her.
Change.
I walked. Yeah, I was on my way out, and I walked up to her and went acid, and pretended to throw it in her face. And because
you
she's
have a dark relationship,
and because it's so funny, instead of going my eyes, she went my shirt. It really made me laugh.
That's funny.
Yeah, she kills me.
My shirt. That's funny.
Want less, suffer less. But then I go to...
We're insane with our wants, and it's kind of weird to talk about it because I think people are basically, yeah, but we need things. We don't really. We're insane.
Right.
We're an insane species.
Again, I reference him so much because he's the only person I've listened to or read, but like...
Who?
That it's,
Chris
private...
Matthews?
Chris Matthews. It's the private property and possessiveness. It's just like... Because you do see these like tribes of guys that it's just like this community property, and it kind of works out. But it's the minute you get like, this is my hut, stay the fuck out of here. That's when you get into, humanity is sort of like our technology has evolved faster than we have evolved.
Absolutely.
So we are like a chimp with a flamethrower.
That's right.
And
That's
it's just,
right.
well, we're going to see what happens.
Yeah. Didn't Robert Oppenheimer go, what the fuck did I do?
Yeah, I am death. That was his quote.
What did he say? I am death?
Yeah, I have become...
Jesus, I only say that when I'm in a really bad mood.
He said, I have become death.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
I've only used
Which is just a weird way of saying it's not you, it's me. Why aren't we together? Because I have become death.
That's overkill when you're trying to get away from someone, when you say something like that. I have become death. Come on.
Look,
we can make this work. Not, I've become death.
Can I say some weird thing? It's totally off topic. I don't know how to date.
I never knew how to date.
I don't know how to date more than one person at once. Like, I'm going to go out with you.
That's
unbelievable. I'm going to go out with you. I think I'm just going to stop. Because like I go out with you as like you go out with somebody, you have dinner, you have a nice time. It's like, all right, are we in a relationship now? We had dinner.
Here's the most important thing, and you have this going, is that you just have to do your work. And luckily you are so connected to your work, i.e. comedy, that you will find someone on that path.
But I mean,
that's it. Because dating is insane. These people.
I bury myself in work so I won't have to feel. I'm not joking. I
understand.
Completely bone deep serious right now.
A lot of people do that.
Every day, here's what I do with my life. I set up a tennis ball machine with stuff I have to do. And then I sit in front of it in a chair and get pummeled in the face by commitments I've made. So I don't have to go out into the world and feel anything.
But when
I have to edit this podcast, I'm sorry. I can't experience joy. I have to edit this podcast.
Yeah. It's amazing to me talking about dating people one after the other. This whole
you're married. You're all
right, but I'm just saying
you're over.
I have friends who are like doing Tinder or what. I have no fucking clue. By the way, they'll just. I've been shown the app, and I'm just like, are you fucking kidding me?
To me, Tinder is like the perfect combination. I'm not on it. I've never been on it. I saw it on somebody's
neither.
phone. It's the combination of getting laid and new glasses. It's just better, worse. Better, worse. Is this better? Is this worse? Is this better? Is this worse?
Good thing is you don't have glaucoma.
Yeah, but from what I understand, people just like meet and fuck.
Yeah,
and then later.
I know.
How is that?
Well, to me, that's
is
that a de-evolution or an evolution?
To me, I liken it to the Matrix. That there's a world going on that's a part of my world that I could access somehow with a computer program. There's like this crazy world of people that just are just meeting and having this casual interaction, and then it's over. And it's just something to which I am utterly foreign.
Same here.
Yeah. And
that's when I feel really old, by the way. That and bands that I have no clue. I have no clue of any
Oh, I
bands.
know. I was, and it's so funny when you do meet people, when you start hanging out with people that share your references. It's great. I made a Paul Weller reference and someone got it. And I was like,
oh. Yeah. Was he Replacements?
The Jam. There's nothing going on now that wasn't going on in a different form in 1968.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm trying to think. We landed on the moon 69. Go ahead.
Right. But it's like,
yeah,
everything was happening. The president was a nut job.
Yeah.
Young people were fucking like rabbits.
Vietnam was going on.
People were fucking like rabbits.
LSD was hitting.
Yeah. It's just the world was coming apart at the seams.
It was all about desire then too, and that's what the Buddhists talk about.
And
all
then-
about desire, like pleasure me.
Yeah.
That's a big one. Pleasure me, like all day long.
Well, that is the brilliance of the lyric, "Here we are now, entertain us."
Oh yeah,
From Nevermind.
yeah.
Here we are now, entertain us.
Yeah.
Yeah, or just Casey and the Sunshine Band.
Boingo, boingo.
Yeah. Oingo Boingo might be pretty
Might have been
good.
worse.
Yeah. I saw Richard Elfman today, actually, at that show.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Of course you did.
Around.
Yeah, so I do want to circle back to this.
Yeah.
But so you're into The Damned,
Yep.
and I'm assuming that you get what are your other adolescent musical?
The Damned, one of my favorites. I loved like Nick Cave.
Sure.
The gothier side of punk rock.
Right.
But I was also really, really into LA punk rock. So like X, the Weirdos,
Bauhaus,
yeah, some of the gothier stuff. But then also like there's a band called The Sound that is easily my favorite band. And they're the most underrated bands of the 80s. And
along with X,
who are great. The Sound was this guy, Adrian Borland, who they were signed to the same label as Echo and the Bunnymen. If you like U2 and Echo and the Bunnymen, they sound like a good version of them. Right? That's how I always describe it.
I like Echo and the Bunnymen. I'm not a fan of U2.
I don't like U2 either, but the early stuff has a sound that I like. The Sound is just this incredible, it's everything Joy Division should have been to me. And the only reason I knew who they were is because every Saturday I'd take the train into Harvard Square and I'd just buy records that I like the covers of in the dollar bin.
At the Coop? Or would you go to
I would go to like
Second
Second Coming. Yep. Second Coming Records was the big one.
Yeah.
And this one I found at Second Coming.
Sure
or
you
it might
did.
have been Mystery Train, but I think it was Second Coming.
Right.
And it was a 12-inch by The Sound from their record In the Lion's Mouth. And I listened to it and it was just that thing where you're like, this is the greatest thing I've ever heard in my life. And later I find out that Adrian Borland killed himself.
Right.
But that band's just so incredible. They were one of my favorites. And then I got into stuff like the Afghan Wigs and really got into soul music and surf music and and all that kind of stuff. And I was into punk rock. I started hanging out at the Rat when I was 12, which is not place.
So what year are you 12?
92.
Yeah. We were probably at the Rat on the same time.
That is likely.
Yeah. I'm older. I was there illegally.
I should not have been there.
Yeah.
But the weirdest thing was, I definitely went through a growth spurt and stuff, but because I wasn't drinking and I wasn't a problem,
they
just let me in.
Yeah.
And I got so used to
right downstairs from Una's Experience.
Yeah, Una's, yeah. I would just walk in. I would hang out at the Middle East and TT the Bears and this place called the Causeway. All these clubs.
Narcissus.
Yeah, I'm somewhere in the Sebadoh video for Ocean. They filmed it at TT the Bears, and I'm like 14 somewhere in that video.
It's amazing.
So I would just hang out at these clubs, and I wouldn't talk to anyone. And I would just watch the bands.
No, not a problem.
Yeah, and so that I was doing that. And then I started a punk rock band, and we started with bands like Dropkick Murphys and all these Boston punk bands, and we did like weirdly well, and we went on tour. Bim Scala Bim was around. The Bostons had sort of just moved kind of bigger out of Boston,
right.
But we would go on tour.
Sleepy LaBeef
was still playing. We'd play with like the Suicide Machines and the Veil and all these bands. And we're like 16. And that, in hindsight, again, we would play there sometimes. We'd go down to New York.
Get written up in the Alston Beat.
Alston Beat. Here's an Alston story. We played a place called O'Brien's, which was a 21 over bar. We were 17. They made us stand outside till our set because they had gotten dinged by the city.
Right.
So a bouncer walked us to the stage. We played, right? After our set, they walked us back outside. We had to wait outside till the end of the show to get paid.
Yeah.
So we were like escorted in and out just for our set.
And you get a hoodsie. Here's a hoodsie.
Here you go. Here you go. Here's a hoodsie and a teeny drink. Are you choking because it's so sweet? Put your hands up. Yeah. So it was weird, and in hindsight, back, to kind of thinking about it now, we were talking about before, my parents just kind of being absent, but I think because they just didn't.
But
have
you found
worry.
a family. I mean, you found a family.
I did and I didn't. It was.
No, let me rephrase that then. You found a place.
I found a place because I never really felt like I fit in there either.
Mm-hmm.
And when I run into kids from that scene, I feel the way people feel about kids I went to high school with, where they're kind of like, oh yeah, he's a good kid. I liked him. Whatever.
Yeah.
It's nice to see him. But I'm 17 and I'd be driving to New York and Philly for the weekend, and I'd get home Sunday night. My parents would be like, oh, where you been? Okay.
Right.
And I couldn't imagine a 17-year-old being like, yeah, we drove down to D.C.
No, my oldest is 14. It's only 3 years.
Yeah. And, I think, again, part of it was probably, I guess, like a compliment.
Well, yeah, well, it's also, I had that in the sense of I could do anything I wanted because there were 6 of us and I wasn't a problem.
But you were doing stand-up early, weren't you? Like 17? Yeah.
Yeah, but it was also like, it wasn't a problem. It was like,
didn't have to worry about you.
Yeah.
They're not going to bail you out.
Yeah.
Yeah, my sister was a
never
problem.
Have a laughing fit in a house of paranoid.
Yeah. My sister would be 15 and show up driving a car, and my parents would be like, where'd you get that? Police auction. She went to a police auction and would buy drug dealer cars there. This was the craziest thing. She got all her friends fake IDs, and she brought her friends, they must have been maybe 15, to a strip club in Revere on amateur night, and they would dance, and then they'd split the money with her.
Jesus.
Like this kind of stuff. Yeah. And I never did that kind of stuff, you know, and I was working, I had my own phone line in the house. I was booking gigs with Epitaph bands and, we're on labels, and I'm reading contracts and stuff.
Wow.
But it was also horrible. Like I was miserable and depressed, and, the kids in the band hated me, and because I'm sure it was just awful to deal with.
Right.
But that was kind of, and then I moved out. Like it was punk rock and comic books and horror movies.
And then the problem that you have when you move out, I'm going to now project.
Okay.
Is with those tools, and they are tools, horror movies and comic books.
Yeah.
They are the tools that you use to teach yourself to allow yourself to be happy.
Yeah.
That it's first you have to learn how to do it, and then you have to give yourself permission to do it.
Yeah.
You have to allow yourself to be happy because it's driving through Dallas with the bubble top off.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're just waiting for it.
I've only read theory before, and now I'm actually enacting it.
Yeah. But I do, I think all of my close friends, we all have those same tools that make us happy, that give us comfort, which is it's just birds of a feather.
Yeah.
You don't need Freud to figure it out.
Absolutely. And I think, one of the things, and I think I've talked about this with you before about TV Guide stuff, was in my incredibly chaotic house, that was reliable.
Absolutely.
It was something to look forward to.
Absolutely. Yeah, we did talk about that.
Every week it was the same.
Yeah. I don't know what the fuck is going on.
Yep.
But it's 6:00.
Yep.
Star Trek is on Channel 56.
Every day. It's going to be there.
11 o'clock, Twilight Zone's on Channel 38.
And if I'm at a bar that they drop me off so my uncle can quote unquote babysit me while he's working, I can ask if they can put 38 on, and I can sit there and watch TV 38 while guys fight with pool cues.
Yeah.
But what's amazing about now, up from 1968, is we have so many devices now that give us instant fucking pleasure.
Instant pleasure, and that also distract you from other things. It's like, hey, I can't, look,
how do you do all your work? Do you turn off all the shit when you're working? Or are you always like, okay, let me check?
I'm not that addicted. I've never been that. I've never played video games. Ever.
Me neither.
But I
do have a certain addiction to social media.
I do too. But I do it, and just like when I'm busy, I just I like you. I like to paint, although it's rating jokes or writing scripts or whatever. It's like I like what I do, so that's good.
Right.
The last time I was really addicted to video games was like when I was an usher at the Milford Cinema in Milford, Massachusetts.
Oh, I think you say.
We had an asteroids game, and I got really good at asteroids in 1981.
Those were fun, though. Those video games.
And we had asteroids and Joust.
Yeah, those video games to me were fun. Like the only video game I really got into
was Pong.
Yes, yes, really. Or the Mario thing, like just so Mario chasing Mario around.
we had a Pong machine that we put in our TV, and we thought we were like Star Trek.
Yes, television. Yes. I'm still the guy who watches. I have direct TV, and that's not to brag, but when you pause it, if you pause it long enough, it goes into that thing where it bounces, and I still look at that long. Like I'm like, look at it bounce.
Here's the other thing: I can't keep track of all the television.
Yeah, me neither. Apple TV.
I was with some people yesterday.
All the television.
We're all hiking, and there are a lot of TV execs.
Yeah.
And
you mean all the new shows that are happening?
Well, just like people that, yeah, I mean, these are all my friends, but they're like, so what are you watching? Oh, I love 13 and Under or whatever. Like, it's just like, what? Is that a show? What?
Yes,
Is
me
that a
too.
show? What? Is that what?
Where do they find the time to watch all this
Well, I think
shit?
it's a lot of it's their job. To
well,
know
if
it.
it's
Yeah,
their job,
it's their
then you
job
can
to-
feel like it's
Yeah.
funny. That's another. It's hilarious to feel inadequate about
Yeah.
not watching television.
And the one show I'm trying to get through is subtitled, so I can't even like put
Which
it
one?
on. It's called a Revenant. It's a French.
Revenant.
It's like French Twin Peaks kind of show. And I'm trying to.
Is
get,
it cool?
I love it. I'm trying to get through the second season, and it's taken me like a year because I have to sit down and watch it because I can't
read
like
it.
just
And read
put
it.
it on.
Yeah.
But no, like last night, there's so many things I could watch.
Yeah.
And I watched The Night Stalker on MeTV.
Yes, me and my wife were
An
watching
episode-
Darren McGavin
Yeah.
on the Night Stalker.
An episode that I've seen 100 times.
That's comfort. That's going back to
that I
comfort.
have on DVD in my other room. It's like I could watch this anytime. I know how this ends.
Which one was it? We've been
It was
watching the Night
It was the
Stalker.
Trevi Connection with Lara Parker on it, who played Angelique on Dark Shadows.
Yeah, I never realized David Chase cut his teeth on that
David
show.
Chase cut his teeth on that show, David Chase of The Sopranos, and I did not know that either. And when I was just telling somebody this story, so I was watching The Night Stalker, and I saw his name in the credits.
Yeah.
And we were like literally 2 days later, we were at the Emmys, and we were with David Chase because
serious?
he was with my wife's agency, and we were at that
Yeah.
table and everything.
Yeah.
My ex-wife. I just casually said, I just watched The Night Stalker the other night. Great work. And he immediately went, does it hold up? Yeah, he went right in there. Yes, it was beautiful. Does it hold up? It was beautiful.
Oh my God.
Like it was exactly what you'd think you would say.
You know, The Night Stalker, when I watch it, I don't know how you feel about this, but I love the comfort of old TV. We've talked about this before. Like, we were watching one of the worst Columbos ever, but I still get such a comfort.
Last night?
It was so bad. It was called Time to Die.
The crazy guy that like made the woman marry him and
was
stuff like that.
so
I watched it.
bad. You watched it
when the guy put lipstick on. I was like, what the fuck
It
is
was so hilarious. Yes. And it had none of, my wife was pissed off because it had none of the Columbo tropes. Like, he's not pursuing
it was like
the villain.
Columbo and the Silence of the Lambs. It was
That's
like
what
this-
we said.
Yeah, it's
That's
like,
what
why
we
is Columbo
said.
in this?
My wife said, did Silence of the Lambs come out about this time? Because it was
Yeah.
obvious they were doing that. And then,
Yeah,
and then
he has
it was-
a lair. The killer has a lair. I just like it
he's
when
projecting photos of her constantly in horrible different poses.
Yeah, I liked it better with the older Columbos when it was Robert Conrad rigged a bomb on somebody's plane.
Loved Robert
Or
Conrad.
just those any old 70s actor.
Robert
like,
Conrad was in like little shorts, and he was, I don't know if you saw the one where he was the fitness guy, and he was always half naked.
He was wearing,
What do you want, Columbo?
he was always
I'm a
wearing
juice. I love to
Jerry Lewis ball hugger shorts.
Yeah, and I love the introduction. Like, I guess vitamins were just getting popular then.
Yep.
Come on, I have a vitamin thing here.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
vitamins.
Yep.
And he'd be like, "Whoa, I just want an egg sandwich."
Well, it's what is now the Whole Foods on Coldwater and Riverside used
Yeah.
to be Mrs. Gooch's in the late 70s. That was one of the first. That was like the big health food store in the Valley.
Mrs.
And that's,
Gooch's?
and I don't know if it's that store, but if you ever watched the brilliant Modern Romance.
Albert Brooks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's 1981, and he goes to like Mrs.
Yeah.
Gooch's to get vitamin. I'm starting a new life. I want some vitamins. And then, well, you can have this, and you can have this.
I like when he buys all the track gear and just runs to a phone to call her.
To call her. And the man who sells him the track gear,
I forgot
his brother, Bob Einstein.
Oh, is that
Super
right?
Dave Osborne.
Dave Osborne,
Albert Brooks'
Super
brother.
Dave.
Yeah. It's really
Albert
brilliant.
Einstein. His name is Albert.
His name is Albert Einstein. I also
How
love
do you
it-
not be funny?
I also love that movie. All right. So he picks out, you want to get, you like this sweatsuit? It's a pretty good suit. Yeah, it's a good suit. All right, let's get two of these. I only need one. What are you going to do? It's in the wash. I won't run that day. Never mind. He puts everything back. I misjudged you. No, buy two.
Yeah.
Why shouldn't I buy these sneakers? They're made out of old tires. Is that how you want to start your new life? No. And then he runs to the phone booth. Mary.
But
God, that movie.
I just wanted to
that
say
movie and Real
Which
Life
one? Real
are
life.
like Rubber Soul
I gotta
and
s-
Revolver. It's
I
just
have to
like,
see Real
how
Life
do you
again.
do this concentrated brilliance in this short amount of time?
Yeah. And then he fucked up with that horrible movie about the Muslim world.
That was weak, wasn't it?
It just was like, no, it didn't happen. It didn't get funny.
I like that he swung for the fences.
I guess, yeah, I always like that.
Yeah.
And now he's kind of become, he's interesting.
He's Gene Hackman now.
Yes.
God bless him.
It's amazing.
Just love to watch. He was
or he's in he's Dory, or he's in
he's in Finding Nemo.
Hey.
Albert Brooks was like my comedy Beatles, so it was just like
one of mine too. Yeah.
It was just so fucking.
I guess I got introduced to him, believe it or not, on the SNL shorts.
Yep.
You too?
When SNL first started, Lorne Michaels said, "Do you want to be the permanent host? Do you want to host it full time?" And he went, "Nah." Can you imagine that?
Oh my God.
But this is the point I wanted to make.
Yeah.
I was talking about 1968.
Yeah.
It's just like everything we have is something we used to have, just a little bit more. People used to complain that kids are just listening to music and they're distracted from the world. Yeah, we have that now. It's just a little bit more. Now we have Trump. We used to have Nixon. Now we have Trump, which is Nixon, just a little bit more. When Prince died, I was watching a retrospective, and my dad walked by the television and went, "Oh, little Richard died." And I was like, kinda, because Prince was just little Richard, just a little bit more. And
funny you say that, because Little Richard was in a Columbo recently.
Was it really?
I mean, recently. It was a rerun.
That you saw?
Yeah. And
just one more thing. You ain't gonna get no more things. Woo!
Yeah. The late Columbos were horrible.
Yeah, when they brought him back, like with Perry Mason.
Yes, it was horrible. But what I want to
Raymond
say,
Burr was so big. Raymond Burr was so fat towards the end. He legally changed his name to the SS Burr. Do you know Bob Sarlott?
No.
Bob Sarlott, brilliant comedian, lives in San Francisco. He was the announcer on David Letterman's morning show. He's one of Letterman's buddies.
Okay.
And he's this great joke.
Yeah.
When I lived in San Francisco, when I first moved there, it was like me and Tom Kenny and a bunch of kids. Bob Sarlott was like our comedy dad. He was older, but he was really cool and a great guy.
Is he still with us?
Yeah, he's around. And he had this one joke. He goes, "Hey, have you seen these Perry Mason movies? I don't know what Raymond Burr's been up to, but I think sit-ups isn't high on the list, huh?" And then this joke was, "I'd like to call Sarah Lee to the stand." As a witness? No, for some delicious cakes, pies, and cookies. And that is one of those jokes that I have been alone in my house, and I will just say it to myself. I will say it to myself out loud and just start cracking up. Bob Sarlott.
Some of these guys really let themselves go at the end, and I'm speaking about Orson Welles, who was such a genius, and he wound up, and this is life in a nutshell too, he wound up sitting at Pink's Hot Dogs, just devouring. I think he has the record at Pink. Genius of film, who did Citizen Kane, wound up scarfing down 30 Pink's Hot Dogs. And today is buried under the Beverly Center. That was the only place he could be under. But I just want to say to you,
he's parking level 7.
To your point that things are the same. How did you put it? Things are the same, but a little
worse. A little worse, a little more.
The only thing I want to add to that is that I think it may be more dire than that, and I want to leave your listeners with this, that because of the finiteness of the environmental stuff.
Oh, no, I think we only have 2 or 3 more cycles to go before we clock out.
I think I love how you just, I mean, it's scary.
Yeah.
The scientists are saying it's too late to do any kind of.
Look, America did not get into World War II until World War II punched us in the face. We knew it was going on, but we weren't that interested.
Yeah.
It didn't really affect us. And then finally they bombed Pearl Harbor and went, all right, we got to do something about this. And then we got in and we did our part. But really what also was a big thing in World War II, and you don't really get this in history class, is the Russian army completely drained all of the resources of the German army. It was the Russians, I think, lost 24 million people to the German army.
By the way,
you only really hear about how the Americans did everything.
24 million.
Yeah. And I have to check. It might be 200 million. I don't know. It's just like the Russian.
How about the insanity of World War I is a great documentary going on now called The Great War. And it's just unbelievable, the staggering amount of people killed. And in World War I, it was particularly insane because they were fighting over like a foot of turf.
Yeah.
And a million people would die.
Archduke Ferdinand.
A million people would die.
Yeah. over shit. And you couldn't even keep the ground because it was just filled with toxic
I'm just
mustard
saying
gas
that
and-
to the insanity of,
Yeah. And I think that with the environmental problem, we won't wake up to solve it until it's too late.
yeah.
You know,
I'm
it's
hearing
like-
it's already too late.
It might be.
The scientists
Yeah.
are just saying, even if we were to really cut back on all these fossil fuels and really do the right thing, it may be too late. The globe has gotten too warm to stop.
Yeah. What will
the
happen?
Arctic
There's
shelf.
one thing that will. Yeah. There's one.
It's happening quicker than they thought.
Yes. There's one thing that will happen is that there will be some unintended consequence. Something is going to happen that we can't anticipate. Probably will be very bad. But that's the one thing that you have to realize is that it's highly likely that in my grandchildren's lifetime, you will start to see swaths of the globe that are uninhabited. And the biggest threat to
talk about wars then.
Well, you're talking about the Pentagon has all of the of these war games gamed out because these guys in the Pentagon, their job is anticipate threats to the United States and protect against them. And climate change is a giant.
Yes.
They believe it. They know it's
climate
a problem.
wars, they call them.
Because people are going to have to be migrating.
Mm-hmm. There's a room. Those guys are in a room. That's a fun room.
Yeah, that's a good room. Yeah.
Yeah. The anticipation room.
But the problem is then you have the oil. Then you have the oil executives who go, "Nah, it gets good. Don't worry about it."
Yeah, they're good people.
Yeah.
All right.
But I think we've solved it. If you've learned nothing else from the podcast today, take away that the latter Columbos, not so good. You went into goth industrial music. I went into like Elvis Costello. I get into brainy rage.
Yeah.
College boy rage.
Yeah. Shriekback?
Yeah, a lot of that. Yeah. And when it's named, when I went to Cedars for my sleep disorder, and this doctor that I still see, this is 1994, I still see him, and he said, it's a somnambulistic hypervigilance.
Can't shut your brain off.
Yeah, well, when your brain when you start to relax, your brain kicks you awake.
Right.
Because it feels like you're under threat.
You let your guard down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you're exhausted, and every time you start to drift off, your brain goes, "Oh, wow, that was weird. We almost fell asleep just then."
They could have
Isn't that
attacked
crazy?
you. Yeah, it's a hypervigilance.
Yeah. And, but just knowing that it had a name and it wasn't that your head is trying to murder you.
Yeah. We've studied this, and it's a real thing.
Yeah, and take this pill and then take this pill, and you're great.
Yeah.
And I still do.
Yeah, same here. I mean, I had a really bad flare-up, I guess it must have been five or 6 years ago now.
Because you're weak.
Because I'm weak. I'm weak, and I'm also kind of queer. You know what happened? Here, I swear to God, this is what happened.
Guy's so weak you went queer.
I was flipping through the fucking channels, We didn't have the guy wasn't working, flipping channels. I watched 2 minutes of that Queer Eye show. Next thing you know, I'm fucking suicidal. So you tell me who the problem is there. I'm going to sue class action suit. I want my $30 check.
I'm going to sue all queers.
Yeah. But I went on medication for the first time, and medications were much better. When I was 17, I went on medication for a bit, and I hated every second of it. They put me on Paxil, and I think it sped me up. It either sped me up or slowed me down. I didn't feel like myself. I couldn't concentrate on things, which is kind of what the point was, because you couldn't. And I hated it. And then this time I went on a thing where the way I described it was, if my emotions were a crane game.
Yeah.
Where, something that would trigger you is putting a quarter in the crane game. What most people would do is they would go down and grab a teddy bear and drop it in the chute, and they'd look at it and go, "Cool, a teddy bear," and then it would be gone. Mine, the crane would just go all the way into the thing and just sit there. And now with the medication, the crane goes down and can't pick anything up.
Right.
Like it just kind of whiffs it, which is normal. That's what most things happen.
Yeah, it's with my little combo, it takes the limits the highs and limits the lows.
Yeah. And I never had that thing where I feared, I can't be creative without this. I need this.
No. There's no way.
Yeah.
There's no, because if you function,
yeah,
you add colors to your palette, and it just gives you a broader emotional palette. I can still write jokes about being depressed, but now I can write jokes about other things.
And you could probably write better, faster, more coherent jokes about being depressed.
Anything that makes you know yourself better is innately going to help your creativity.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if it doesn't, being creative is not that important.
You didn't have that.
Yeah, just be happy. It's better.
Yeah, and I know so many people be like, well, I can't go America, I can't do my jokes. I'm like,
that's
you know
just
what?
Fear.
Also, if you couldn't do your jokes, but you're not going to kill yourself, that's probably okay.
That's probably okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's, I went through that, with a lot of people, specifically, I think of my relationship with Mila Nurmi. She always needed help.
Yeah.
But accepting it fully would require her to change.
Yeah.
And so she didn't want to change. So there's a lot of people that you will, God bless her soul and God rest her soul. But there's a lot of people who, you row out to them in the lifeboat and they don't want to get in the boat.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you just have to make sure they don't pull you into the ocean.
Well, they do want to get in the boat, but they can't get in the boat.
Yeah.
And
then they think, well, maybe I'll pull you in with me. At least we'll be together.
Then we'll die together.
Yeah. I don't want to do that either.
Yeah. Make everyone as miserable as you are. And then, then it's fine. Instead of realizing that the thing you have is a real thing other people have, make everyone have what you think you have.
Right.
And it's just totally, awful.
Yeah.
But I'm doing much better now.
What's interesting is, again, with you specifically, because we're so similar, I feel. We have a lot. You had it worse than I did. You win.
Yes,
I know people to beat you, but you did well.
Oh, yeah.
but we use the same tools to cope.
Yeah.
Which is, and my wife, my ex-wife, totally saved my life. I mean, she dragged me by my eyelids into adulthood.
Yeah.
And made me be a grown-up. And I owe her the world for that. And my kids, so it really did,
once you have someone else to do it for, because I feel the same way about my wife, where you're not getting better for yourself, which you really should be.
Yeah.
But it's for them at the start, kind of.
Yeah.
And that's I can't imagine. I guess I can't imagine it, but doing that for someone else, where you make them better for themselves, but kind of act as the focus for it, must be horrible.
Yeah.
And they did it.
Uh-huh. And oddly, this was what I wanted to talk about tonight. We never got to it, but it's great because it means we have to do it again.
Yeah.
The president's a lunatic.
Yes.
Thanks for coming by.
Thanks, Dana.
We're actually quite happy, everybody.
It's true. We're wearing party hats.
Other podcasts reach for the sky. Dana Gould bound.
We barely try.
The Dana Gould Hour. Never an hour. This has been the Dana Gould Hour, brought to you by the Internet. Music by Andy Paley, with Jake Posner behind the board. Produced by Jeff Fox. Graphic design and web production by Spencer Hunt and Segan Friend. Sound editing and post-production by Jalinda Palmer and Joe Napolitano. Hey, if you like the show, why don't you drop us a line at show@danagould.com. Tom Kenny speaking.
I'm a DJ, I'm a DJ, I'm a person, I'm a person, I'm a singer, I love to sing and DJ. Boom! Peace out. You want me? Peace out. Boom.